So there I was, kneeling in the middle of a giant throne room, surrounded by hundreds of officials who were all looking at me like I was already a ghost. Sixth Prince, explain yourself. His Majesty is waiting. Some old eunuch next to the throne kept yelling at me. Explain what exactly? That someone planted a creepy voodoo doll in my room, and now everyone thinks I cursed the crown prince? Please. The emperor, my own father, controls this entire empire with an iron fist. You think he actually believes in magic dolls? He doesn't want an explanation. He wants me dead. The original Li Che figured this out too, by the way. Poor guy looked around the room, cold faces everywhere. Brothers who wanted him gone, officials who wouldn't even make eye contact, and a father sitting on his throne like he was watching a mildly boring play. Even a tiger won't eat its own cubs, he muttered. The officials nearby heard that and immediately pretended to be deaf. Smart move, honestly. Then the original Li Che did something absolutely insane. He screamed, "If there's a next life, I'd rather be a farmer than a prince," and full speed sprinted headfirst into a giant pillar. Bang. Done. Dead. Blood everywhere. The whole court lost their minds. And my father? The emperor? He stood up slowly, looked down at his son's body like it was a broken piece of furniture, and calmly said, "Where's the doctor?" The doctor checked. "Your Majesty, the sixth prince is dead." The emperor's face flickered for maybe half a second. Then nothing. Cold as ice. So that's how the original Li Che died. Real tragic stuff. Now here's where I come in. 1 second I'm a 20-something geologist who just discovered a massive mineral deposit in northeast China, probably about to get promoted. And the next second I'm lying face down in a pool of someone else's blood with a splitting headache and a brain full of memories that aren't mine. Let me process what I just inherited here. Dead mom was a princess from the previous dynasty. So I've got enemy bloodlines. Cool. Original Li Che was known as the virtuous prince because he was nice to everyone and even spoke up for political prisoners. In a royal palace, where people get murdered for breathing wrong. But he had a full stack of death flags and still walked around smiling. The crown prince suddenly gets sick, and oh look, they find a cursed doll in my room? This is literally the ancient Chinese version of getting framed. It even has a historical name and everything. So I'm lying there on the cold floor, blood all over my face, playing dead, trying to figure out what to do, when the emperor drops his next move. He sends the old eunuch down with a decree. The sixth Prince Li Che is hereby granted the title of Prince of Ningu, and shall govern the lands beyond Shanghai Pass. He may not return to the capital without imperial summons. The officials all hung their heads, because everyone knew what this meant. The guy was already dead, and now Dad decides to give him a title? This was pure reputation management. If the history books say, Emperor kindly made his son a prince, but the son killed himself out of shame, that's way better than Emperor bullied his own kid to death. And Ningu beyond Shanghai Pass? That's basically exile territory, where they dump political prisoners and let barbarian raiders use it as a snack bar. The old eunuch walked over to my corpse with the decree, and then he leaned down and whispered with a nasty little smile. The crown prince wanted me to tell you, since you love speaking up for those exiled people so much, why don't you go join them? Oh, you smug little. That's when I made my move. My bloody hand shot up and grabbed that decree right out of his hands. I lifted my head, blood running down my face. Probably looked like something out of a horror movie. Where? I grinned at him. Say that again. Where are you sending me? The eunuch looked like his soul left his body. Shanghai Pass. Beyond. Ningu. I snatched that decree and hugged it to my chest like it was a winning lottery ticket. I, Li Che, no wait. I, the Prince of Ningu, Li Che, accept this decree. I couldn't stop smiling. Beyond Shanghai Pass? Ningu? Do you people have any idea what that area becomes in the future? That's the northeast. That's where I literally just found a massive mineral deposit back in my old life. This question? I know the answer to this one. Every single official in that throne room was staring at me like they'd seen a ghost. Which, fair enough, I basically was one. The minister closest to the pillar actually turned around to inspect it. There was a head-shaped dent in the wood with blood on it. He looked at the dent, looked at me, looked at the dent again. His face said it all. How is this man alive? But the real MVP of panic? The imperial doctor. The guy who literally just told the emperor, "Your son is dead." He was on the ground shaking like a leaf because the emperor was staring at him the way a cat stares at a mouse it's about to eat. I almost felt bad for the guy. Almost. Meanwhile, I was standing there clutching that decree like a kid on Christmas morning. I was supposed to keep playing dead. That was the smart move. But the second I heard, Ningu beyond Shanghai Pass, my body moved on its own. I couldn't help it. The Northeast. The land I spent my entire career mapping. I know where every single mineral deposit is buried out there. Every single one. The original Liche had 0 allies, 0 power, and was about to be 0 alive. Staying in this capital was a death sentence with extra steps. But going northeast? That's my home turf. I could lay low, build up strength, and, my son, are you all right? The Emperor's voice floated down, light as a feather. Real casual for a guy who just watched his kid crack his skull open. I looked up at him for the first time, and, okay, I'll give credit where it's due. This man had presence. About 40 years old, face carved from stone, eyes that could make a general wet himself. One look and you understood why he conquered the whole empire. I'm still a bit dizzy, father, I said, holding my head. Go to the medical tower. Then come see me at the Yanshin Hall. Not a request. An order. Yes, father. I stuffed the decree deeper into my robe. You are not getting this back, and headed for the exit. Every official in the room parted around me like I had the plague. Now here's where it gets dark. The poor doctor who misdiagnosed my death, he scrambled to his feet and was helping me walk out, clearly hoping to slip away in the chaos. The Emperor's voice came from behind us, cold as winter. Incompetent doctor. Failed in his duty. What is the appropriate punishment? I felt the hand on my arm start trembling violently. Then, thud, the doctor dropped to his knees. Mercy, your majesty. Mercy. The Emperor barely glanced at him. Execute him. Confiscate his family's property. Exile his entire family to Ningu. I'm sorry, what? Did this man just use MY territory as a punishment dump? Right in front of me. He's not even pretending anymore. He's literally showing me in real time what Ningu is used for. It's the imperial garbage bin. 2 armored guards dragged the doctor away. I watched and had a sudden, very clear thought. This situation is far from over. The Emperor let me go because he'd already announced my title in front of everyone. Even an all-powerful emperor can't take back his word publicly. But the whole, you cursed the crown prince with voodoo thing? That's still hanging over my head. The killing blow is coming later. I needed to move fast. After getting patched up at the medical tower, turns out a skull-first collision with a wooden pillar only gave me a minor concussion. Original Liche had a thick head apparently. I followed his memories to the Yanshin Hall. The old eunuch Huang Jin came out to greet me with a completely blank face. 6th Prince, His Majesty will see you. I didn't even look at this snake. Just walked straight past him. This guy was one of the people who helped set up the original Liche. I had nothing to say to him. Inside, the Yanshin Hall was surprisingly plain. No gold, no jewels, just a simple workspace. The Emperor was big on the whole, frugal ruler thing. So frugal, he even cut his officials' salaries to the bone. Real popular move, I'm sure. The second I stepped in, those predator eyes locked onto me. The Emperor sat behind his desk, studying me like I was a specimen under a microscope. Your son greets his father. I bowed. Silence. He just stared, and I stared back. This was apparently new. The old Liche would have been looking at his feet by now. But I held his gaze, and I could see it register, a flicker of surprise. He could tell something was different about me. We stood there in this weird staring contest until my arms started going numb from holding the bow position. Finally he spoke. Liche, do you admit your wrongdoing? I do not. His eyes narrowed. Then do you know why I called you here? I also do not. I took a breath. This was it. Go big or go home. And I definitely couldn't go home. But I came here to rebel, for the first time. The first time. That stone-cold face cracked. The Emperor's eyes went wide. What did you say? I bowed again, and I said it louder so there was absolutely no misunderstanding. I said, I came here to rebel against you. Your Majesty. Dead silence. Every single servant in the hall forgot how to move. Maids, eunuchs, guards, all frozen solid, mouths hanging open. Because I just told the Emperor of the entire nation that I was here to rebel against him. Look, I know how that sounds. But hear me out. The old eunuch Huang Jin was the first one to reboot. He literally jumped in front of the Emperor like a human shield. How dare you? Do you even know what you're saying? Treason. This is treason. You have a death wish. I know exactly what I'm saying. I kept my face completely straight and looked past him at my dear old dad. I intend to rebel, and I'm here to inform you in advance, father. The emperor recovered from his shock pretty quick. Gotta respect the man's composure, and pushed Huang Jin aside. Ah, I see. You're trying to convince me the head injury made you crazy? Damn. This guy saw right through me in 2 seconds flat. Pretending to be insane was never going to work on someone who'd perfected the art of manipulation over decades of ruling. Good thing that wasn't actually my plan. My mind is perfectly clear, father. Every word I say comes from the heart. Fine then, he laughed. The angry kind of laugh. Go ahead. Tell me, how exactly do you plan to rebel? Okay, here we go. Showtime. I straightened my back. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears, but I forced myself to stay calm. I plan to team up with remnants of the previous dynasty and the noble families. I'll gather assassins and send them to kill you. I said it with a completely straight face, like I was giving a project presentation. Huh? The emperor smirked. I already wiped out every former dynasty loyalist in the capital. The few survivors are small fry. And which noble family would dare work with you in your current situation? Fair point. Next plan. Then I'll go to my territory, rally the exiled former dynasty people there, build an army, break through Shanghai Pass, and march on the capital. The emperor looked annoyed now. There are maybe a few tens of thousands of exiles in Ningu, and they can barely feed themselves. You think they can form an army? And Shanghai Pass is the greatest fortress in the empire. You'd need 200,000 soldiers minimum to crack it. With what? Okay, yeah, that's also a good point. Next. Then I'll persuade the crown prince and the other princes to join forces. Together we'll pressure you to step down. The crown prince? Pure contempt on his face. I decide who's crown prince. The title exists because I allow it. Besides, the crown prince already hates you. Why would he team up with you? And the other princes? You think my secret police don't watch their every move? I went quiet. He had shot down every single option, which was exactly what I wanted. The emperor's eyes turned sharp and dangerous. Now tell me, what exactly are you going to rebel with? I looked up at him, and I let my eyes go red. Let my voice shake. Let whatever feelings the original Liche left in this body rise to the surface. You're right, father. Someone like me. What could I possibly rebel with? The emperor froze. Because it hit him. All at once. That was the whole point. I had literally 0 resources, 0 allies, 0 power. I couldn't rebel even if I wanted to. And if I couldn't rebel, why was he so afraid of me? Why was he trying so hard to destroy me? Just because my dead mother was a princess from the previous dynasty? I could see something shift behind his eyes. He was remembering things. Maybe my mother, the original Liche's mother, who the memories told me was gentle and kind, the type who'd smile through anything no matter how badly she was treated. I didn't let up. I'm 16 years old. Every prince younger than me already has a title and a territory. I'm the only one stuck in the capital with nothing. Everyone in the court knows you don't like me. Even the servants in the palace don't respect me. Being alive feels worse than being dead. Since you despise me so much, father, let me rebel. Then you can execute me with a perfectly clean conscience. Nobody will blame you. Not one person. All the blame falls on me. The crazy, treasonous 6th prince. Every sentence was a knife. And I could see each one land. The emperor's face went pale. Then paler. By the end, his hands were shaking. So please, father, grant me death. I bowed deep and didn't get up. The hall went dead silent again. The only sound was the emperor breathing hard. Every servant in the room was trying to become invisible. I could practically hear them thinking, we are not supposed to be hearing this. We are so dead. And me? I was barely holding it together. My heart was doing a full drum solo against my ribcage. Because this was a gamble. A massive, all-or-nothing gamble. I was betting that my little speech would make him realize I wasn't a threat. Betting that he cared about his reputation enough not to want, killed his own son, on his record. Betting that somewhere deep in that frozen chest, there was still one tiny speck of fatherly feeling left. The silence dragged on forever. Then the emperor let out a long, slow breath. Huang Jin, that old snake, perked up immediately. I could practically see him getting ready to call the guards. One word from the emperor, and I'd be chopped into pieces. But instead, the emperor said quietly, I never knew you had such a way with words. All right, get up, the emperor sighed. I understand what you're trying to say. I lifted my head. Inside, I was screaming with relief. The murder intent in his eyes? Gone. For now. His face went back to that default cold expression, like a screensaver made of ice. Do you know why I've never bothered to develop the lands beyond Shanghai Pass? I thought for a second and gave him 2 words. Chicken ribs. Chicken ribs? He looked confused. Too tasteless to eat, too wasteful to throw away. His eyes actually lit up. I could tell he loved that. Hit him right in the feelings. This man had probably been thinking the exact same thing for years, but never had the perfect phrase for it. Correct. The land beyond the pass is too costly to control. Better to dump criminals and exiles there as a buffer zone between us and the barbarians. Then he got this look. The pop quiz look. I could practically see the teacher energy radiating off him. If it's so useless, then why did I give it to you? Oh boy. This was a trick question. A deadly trick question. The real answer? He gave it to me because he thought I was dead and just slapped a random title on my corpse for PR reasons. But I obviously couldn't say that. I took my time thinking. He didn't rush me, which was honestly more terrifying than if he had. I believe. Father gave me the Northeast to prepare for a future campaign against Korea. The Emperor's eyebrows went up. Was my answer correct? Absolutely not. But it was the wrong answer. See, the previous dynasty fell because their emperor tried to conquer Korea with the full might of the nation and got absolutely destroyed. It bankrupted the whole country. Our current emperor, being the competitive type who founded his own dynasty, definitely thought he could succeed where that loser failed. It's like telling a CEO, your competitor couldn't pull this off. Instant motivation. The only problem with invading Korea was that the Northeast was a frozen wasteland with zero infrastructure. No supply lines, no bases, no nothing. Any army would die of cold and hunger before they even reached the enemy. But if someone were to, say, build all of that, the emperor took the bait. Hook, line, and sinker. 3 years. His eyes were practically glowing. I'll give you 3 years. If you can turn Ningu into a logistics base capable of supporting a military campaign against Korea, I'll promote you to full prince. Your bloodline will hold the Northeast forever, generation after generation. I almost burped. That was the most beautiful pie-in-the-sky promise I'd ever heard. A corporate CEO couldn't have drawn a better fantasy on a whiteboard. Hit these impossible KPIs, and I'll make you VP. Energy. But hey, when the emperor draws you a pie, you eat that pie and say thank you. I will do my absolute best, father. He nodded, satisfied. I could tell he expected me to collapse on the ground, weeping with gratitude like his other sons would. Instead, I just stood there looking at him calmly. He looked almost disappointed, like a cat that dropped a toy mouse in front of you, and you didn't react. Go prepare then. Goodbye, father. I turned and walked. Did not run. Did not look back. Maintained perfect composure. Then he said something after I left that I obviously didn't hear at the time, but I'll tell you anyway because it's important. He looked at Huang Jin, that treacherous old eunuch, and said, "You also think I wanted to kill my own son?" Huang Jin hit the floor so fast his knees probably cracked the tile. Sweating buckets. I just didn't like how weak and submissive he always was. But he's still my son. Nobody touches him but me. Then, with ice in his voice, tell the crown prince. He's not emperor yet. He shouldn't be so eager to destroy his own brothers. OH. So the emperor knew. He knew the crown prince was behind the whole voodoo doll setup. He just went along with it, used it as an excuse. These royals are absolutely insane. Anyway, I made it out of the palace gates. The second I stepped through Xuanwu Gate, it felt like my soul slammed back into my body. That constant feeling of a guillotine hovering over my neck. Finally gone. I turned around and looked at that dark gate one more time. It looked like a giant mouth ready to swallow you whole. I swore to myself right then, I am never coming back to this nightmare palace. Ever. Sky's the limit from here on out. I speed walked to my residence, a place called the 10 Princes Mansion. It was built for all the underage princes to live in until they got their own territories. Guess how many princes were left living there? Just me. Even the younger ones had already moved out. That's how neglected I was. Outside the gate, I spotted old Yang, my late mother's loyal butler, the one person in this whole world the original Li Che trusted completely. He was pacing back and forth looking worried sick. Old Yang, he spun around, saw me alive, and let out the biggest sigh of relief. Then he noticed the giant gash on my forehead and panicked. "Your Highness, what happened to you?" "It's nothing." Let's talk inside. We got into my courtyard and I grabbed his hands. Old Yang, the Emperor is sending me to my own territory. Pack everything. We're leaving. Now, his eyes went wide. Then his face broke into the biggest smile I'd ever seen. After years of watching his young master get bullied and ignored, this was the moment he'd been praying for. Your Highness, where is your territory? I grinned. The northeast, beyond Shanghai Pass. Ningu. His smile vanished instantly. Your Highness, you cannot go there. The Emperor is heartless. He's trying to kill you. Old Yang was pacing around the courtyard like a man whose house was on fire. Your Highness, you don't understand. Ningu is where they send criminals. It's the poorest, most miserable place in the entire empire. The winters last half the year. There are barbarians everywhere. Korea is right next door, and you can barely even get there from the mainland. He stopped and stared toward the palace with pure hatred in his eyes. This isn't a territory assignment. This is a death sentence. Now here's the thing about Old Yang. He was a scholar who lost everything when the previous dynasty fell. My mother, the original Li Che's mother, took him in and gave him a new life. After she died, all that loyalty transferred straight to me. This man had zero love for the Emperor. Honestly, if I had died in that throne room today, Old Yang would have started an armed rebellion by dinner time. Old Yang, this is actually good news, I said, trying to calm him down. At least out there we have a chance. Staying in the capital? That's the real death sentence. What I didn't tell him was the truth that would have blown his mind. The Northeast isn't barren at all. It's probably the richest land in the entire empire. Nobody knows it yet because no farming civilization has ever tried to develop it. In my previous life, that region didn't get properly opened up until the late Qing dynasty. Before that, everyone just assumed it was a frozen wasteland and left it to the nomads. Yes, the cold is a real problem. Yes, the location is inconvenient. But these are problems I can solve. And once I do, the potential of that land is absolutely terrifying. Old Yang looked at me with red, watery eyes. He was seeing the same old Li Che, the sweet kid who never complained no matter how badly he was treated, never took out his frustrations on the servants. Then his expression hardened. Your Highness, I'm going to round up the old crew in the capital. They'll come with us. He turned to leave, and I grabbed him immediately. Absolutely not. See, in the original Li Che's memories, these old friends of Yang's, they were former elite assassins trained by the previous dynasty's royal family. When the old empire fell, most of them went into hiding and blended into normal life. But a handful stayed behind in the capital, waiting for an opportunity. Only Old Yang knew who they were. Not even the original Li Che had their identities. So yeah, turns out the Emperor's paranoia about me wasn't completely unfounded. I actually did have rebellion resources. The original Li Che just never knew about them. Old Yang, think about it. I just got my title today. Every spy in the capital is watching me right now. If you suddenly show up with a bunch of mysterious tough guys, we're handing them evidence on a silver platter. I get executed, and all those brothers get dragged down with me. That snapped him out of it. Old Yang wasn't stupid, just emotional. Then what do? You can't go to that dangerous place with no protection. The Emperor already gave me permission to recruit 1,500 personal guards from the capital's military units. His frown got worse. The capital's military is all the Emperor's people. Every single unit is loyal to him. How are you going to trust soldiers like that? Don't worry about the guards. I already have a plan for that. I changed the subject. I need you to handle something much more important. Chillin, I waved over a little maid standing nearby. Go to my study and bring me a brush and ink. She nodded and ran off like a good girl. I'm going to write you a shopping list. Buy everything on it. As much as you can get. Then a horrible thought occurred to me. How much money do we have? 500 taels of silver. How much? 500 taels. A prince had 500 taels. That's a decent amount for a regular person, sure. But for a royal? That's barely enough to keep the lights on. That's all that's left. And only because your Highness has always been very frugal. I rubbed my temples. Great. I wanted to leave the capital immediately, but at this rate, I'd need to stick around long enough for the Emperor's salary payments to come through. Just then, little Chiowen came running back holding a brush and an ink stone. Nothing else. I stared at her. I told you to bring writing supplies. I did. She blinked at me innocently. Where am I supposed to write? On the air? Where's the paper? Oh, her face turned bright red, and she sprinted back to the study. She came back with paper this time. Thank God. I spread it out and started writing. Lucky for me, the original Liche's muscle memory kicked in. My hand just knew how to use a calligraphy brush even though I'd never touched one in my life. Pretty handy glitch in the transmigration system. I wrote out a long, detailed list. Old Yang took it and started reading aloud. White. Cotton flowers? These are ornamental plants, Your Highness. What do you want flowers for? Keeping warm. Flowers can keep you warm. Oh yes, they can. I smiled. Cotton. Good old cotton. In this world, just like in my old one before the Ming Dynasty, people only knew cotton as a pretty garden flower. Nobody had figured out you could turn it into fabric and stuffing. The emperor who finally popularized it in my timeline, he basically revolutionized winter survival for an entire nation. And in this world, nobody had cracked that secret yet. Lucky me. Old Yang kept scanning the list, and his face fell further and further. Most of the items were either extremely rare or things he'd never even heard of. It's fine, I told him. Get the easy stuff first. We'll track down the rest once I have more time and money. He nodded and carefully folded the list like it was a sacred document. And what will Your Highness be doing? I grinned. I'm going to the criminal soldiers' camp. Time to recruit my personal guard. A little while later, I walked out of the Tin Prince's mansion with my one and only bodyguard behind me. His name was Hu Chang. Picture a human refrigerator. 14 years old. 14. Built like a siege tower. The original Li Che found him starving on a street corner 3 winters ago, brought him home, and fed him. Hu Chang cried his eyes out. First time in his life he'd ever had a full stomach, and never left. This kid's appetite was genuinely terrifying. His strength matched it too. We're talking superhuman levels. More importantly, his brain was simple and his loyalty was absolute. My favorite kind of person. Ah Chang, did you eat enough today? Yes. But if Your Highness lets me, I could eat more. Huh? Eat whatever you want today, my treat. Okay. I listen to Your Highness. See? Hu Chang never says, thank you. In his mind, his whole life belongs to me. So what's the point of thanks? You don't thank yourself. I rode a horse. Hu Chang couldn't ride one because no horse in the empire could survive his weight. But his legs were so long that he could keep up with my horse at a walking pace. Just casually power striding down the road like a medieval Bigfoot. I bought him snacks along the way. This monster ate a normal person's entire daily food intake in 30 minutes. I'm pretty sure he could demolish an entire cow if I let him. We headed for the West Gate. Outside the city walls, about 10 miles out, was the criminal soldiers' camp. The name says it all. Murderers, arsonists, the worst of the worst. Anyone sentenced to death could get thrown in here instead. The emperor kept them as a disposable army. Whenever there was a suicide mission nobody else wanted, he'd unleash these guys as cannon fodder. The camp looked like a squatting toad from a distance. Broken tents everywhere, zero organization. And when I got closer, I realized these soldiers weren't training at all. They were hauling boulders and digging trenches. Manual labor. Not only were they expected to die on command in battle, they were worked like animals the rest of the time. Nice. Real nice. I dismounted, tossed the reins to Hu Chang, and walked in. The smell hit me immediately. Sweat and blood, thick enough to chew on. Faster. Anyone who slows down loses their head. Some big ugly guy was standing on a raised platform in the middle of camp, cracking a whip. Classic bully energy. The ragged prisoners flinched and worked harder with every crack. He spotted me. Well-dressed, clearly important, and squinted. Who are you? The fact that he was looking down at me from his platform really bothered me. Reminded me of my middle school vice principal. And that guy was a grade A piece of work. I said nothing. Just started walking toward the platform. Xing. He drew his sword. I asked you a question. This is a military zone. No civilians allowed. Still said nothing. Kept walking. Climbed up the steps until we were eye to eye. I am the Prince of Ningu. I'm here to select my personal guard. Prince of who? Never heard of that title. A guard leaned over and whispered, Boss, that's the 6th prince. I've seen him before. The big guy's face immediately shifted from confusion to contempt. Oh, the 6th prince? The weak one. Everyone knew the 6th prince was the emperor's least favorite. Soft, pushover, zero respect. If court officials didn't bother being polite to me, why would some random low-ranking officer? Sorry, Your Highness, he said, slamming his sword back into its sheath with a loud clang. I'm a captain of the Crown Prince's left guard. I'm in charge of these prisoners. You want soldiers? Go look somewhere else. Did I ask for your opinion? My voice went cold. What exactly are you, that you think you can call yourself captain in front of a prince? His face turned purple. He stomped so hard the wooden platform cracked. This is the Crown Prince's territory, sixth prince. Don't think your title protects you here. The prisoners all stopped working. They were loving this. Watching the bully officer fight with a prince? Entertainment of the year. Didn't matter who lost. They'd enjoy the show either way. The criminal soldiers are a direct imperial unit under the emperor himself, I said calmly. Since when do the Crown Prince's dogs get to run it? That broke him. His hand went straight for his sword again. I saw that twitch and shouted one word. Chong. Whoosh. All anyone saw was a massive greasy palm, the size of a dinner plate, swinging through the air. Then a horrible sound. Bones and flesh twisting. The big guy's head spun 180 degrees on his neck. His face, which had been pointed at me, was now staring at the crowd of prisoners behind him. His expression was frozen in shock. Everyone went dead silent. For a few seconds, nobody even breathed. Then the body toppled off the platform like a felled tree, hitting the dirt with a massive thud, kicking up a cloud of dust. That woke up the guards. They scrambled for their weapons and pointed them at me. I calmly reached into my robe, pulled out the imperial decree, that beautiful black scroll, and held it high above my head. Imperial decree. Who dares defy it? I pointed down at the body. This man attempted to assassinate a prince of the empire. He has been executed accordingly. Drop your weapons now, unless you'd like to join him. The guards looked at me, looked at the very real, very official-looking scroll in my hand. Clang. One weapon hit the ground. One guard dropped to his knees. Then it was dominoes. Weapon after weapon falling, guard after guard kneeling, until every single one of them was on the ground before me. The guard who'd whispered my identity earlier was kneeling in a puddle of his own cold sweat thinking, this is the soft, weak sixth prince? You had the imperial decree the whole time. If you'd shown it first, the captain would have bowed. But no, you had to wait until his head got turned backwards. This isn't a pushover. This is the Grim Reaper. But see, this was all part of my plan. If I'd just walked in waving a piece of paper and asking nicely, these hardened criminals would have laughed me out of camp. The original Li Che's reputation was that pathetic. I needed to make a statement. I needed blood. As for that captain, I just borrowed something from him. His life. Surely a big, strong guy like him wouldn't be petty about it. One of the prisoners dropped his hoe. It clanged on the ground. He stared up at me with wide eyes, voice trembling. Your Highness, you said you're here to recruit guards. Hope flickered in his eyes. Are you here to save us? I looked down at him and smiled warmly. Save you? I have zero interest in saving anyone. I'm here to take you all to your deaths. I looked down at all those faces from the platform. Numb faces. Scared faces. A few with the tiniest spark of hope. Time to give the sales pitch of a lifetime. Your lives mean nothing to me, I said. No sugarcoating. No fake sympathy. They started murmuring. Some cursed at me. Most just looked confused, trying to figure out what my angle was. Every single one of you deserves to die. You know it. I know it. All that's waiting for you here is backbreaking labor until your body gives out and they toss you in a ditch somewhere. Silence. Because it was true. They were convicts. Forgotten garbage. No future. No hope. No dignity. Then I cranked the volume up. But I can give you a choice. I swung the imperial decree toward the north like a general pointing his sword at the enemy. A chance to die as soldiers of the great Qing Empire. They froze. Didn't understand yet. Follow me beyond Shanghai Pass. Out there, barbarian tribes are everywhere. You will fight them. You will probably die, cut down by their blades, or frozen to death in the wilderness. Or you can stay here. Keep living like animals. No dignity. No purpose. Just rotting away until you stop breathing and nobody even notices. I let that hang in the air for a second. So choose. Die here as a convict. Or die out there as a soldier. Dead silence. Look, I know this sounds like the worst recruitment speech in history. Come with me and die. But here's the thing about people who've lost everything. They don't want comfort. Comfort is a lie and they know it. What they want is meaning. Even if that meaning comes wrapped in a body bag. I'll go. A thin, pale young man broke the silence. Skinny as a stick, but his eyes were burning. I don't want to rot in this hellhole. Take me beyond the pass. That one voice was the spark. The fire spread instantly. Me too. I've been done with living anyway. Count me in. Screw it. 18 years from now, I'll be reborn as a hero. One of the guards got so hyped he shouted, "Damn it. I want to go to the Northeast too." The veteran next to him smacked him upside the head. "You idiot. You're not even a convict. Stop volunteering to die." More and more of them stood up, fists clenched, eyes alive for the first time in who knows how long. I watched it happen with satisfaction. These men had been ground down to nothing, but the wildness was still in there, buried under the numbness. I just had to dig it out. Of course, not everyone stepped forward. Most of them were too broken. The fight had been beaten out of them completely. And you know what? That's fine. I had no interest in dragging along people who'd already given up on themselves. I stepped down from the platform and started walking straight into the crowd. A guard rushed up. "Your Highness, don't go near them. They're dangerous. If anything happens to you, we die too." I waved him off. "It's fine. If you want to command wolves, you have to be willing to walk into the pack alone." The convicts went wild when they saw me, an actual prince, walking toward them without fear. You could feel the energy shift. Something hot and electric running through the crowd. A big muscular guy threw himself to the ground in front of me. "Convict Wong Hu. Willing to die for your highness." His voice hit like a hammer. After that, it was a chain reaction. Men dropped to their knees everywhere I walked, like I was mowing a field of human wheat. "Convict Heat Song Long. Willing to die for your highness." "Convict Wong Sanchun. Willing to die for your highness." Row after row after row. Every step I took, another wave hit the ground. I kept my face perfectly neutral through all of it. Internally, pretty hyped. But a prince doesn't grin at his own recruitment rally. When I reached the center, I called out, "Anyone who can read, stand up." Rustling sounds. 7 or 8 men rose, including the skinny young guy who volunteered first. Not bad. In an era where most people were illiterate, 7 or 8 readers out of this crowd was actually impressive. "You're in charge of registration. Record every name. They're joining the Ningu army." "Yes, sir." They scrambled to work. Then I got serious. Really serious. Listen carefully. There are 2 types of criminals I will not accept. Every spine in the crowd straightened. First, rapists. If you preyed on women, I don't want you. Second, child traffickers. If you bought or sold children, I don't want you. Everyone has a limit. Murderers? Fine, I can work with that. Arsonists? Sure, useful skill actually. But those 2 categories? Those aren't criminals. Those are monsters. Non-negotiable. A chunk of the crowd immediately deflated, faces going pale. One guy stood up, big, ugly, aggressive. "Your Highness, we're all death row convicts here. Why won't you take us? What makes our crimes worse than theirs?" I turned my gaze on him. He shivered but held his ground. "Tough guy? Desperate guy? What did you do to end up here?" I asked quietly. He actually smiled, licked his lips. "I raped and killed 8 pregnant women. Real fun stuff. And if the local cops hadn't called in the garrison troops, they never would have caught me with my skills." He leaned forward. "With talent like mine, why wouldn't you want me working for you?" I didn't answer. I just wrapped my fingers around the sword at my waist. Flash. 1 silver arc. The sound of steel parting flesh. The smug grin was still frozen on his face. A thin red line appeared across his neck. Then the blood came, pouring through his fingers as he grabbed at his throat, unable to stop it. The original Li Che may have been soft-hearted, but he trained in swordsmanship his whole life. Those skills were still in these muscles, and I was more than happy to use them. I slid the sword back into its sheath and looked down at him like he was something I'd scraped off my boot. My army has room for the worst sinners, but it has no room for subhuman filth like you. My little demonstration with the rapist worked like a charm. Nobody else with those 2 types of crimes on their record dared make a peep. They quietly shuffled to the back of the crowd and disappeared. Good. Trash takes itself out. I had the guards bring paper and ink, and the convicts lined up like school kids at registration day. My handful of literate guys started writing down names, ages, hometowns, and crimes. I gave them special instructions to flag anyone who fell into certain categories. First, bandits and highway robbers. These guys usually knew basic fighting. Future frontline soldiers. Second, grave robbers and cat burglars. If you're skilled enough to get a death sentence for theft, you're seriously talented. Perfect scouts and spies. Third, gang leaders, smuggling bosses, bandit chiefs. Anyone who'd led people before. These were my future junior officers. Prison is full of talent, people. Never underestimate a criminal's skill set. The first guy who'd pledged loyalty to me, the skinny young man, turned out to be named Chiobai. Sounds like a rich family's pampered son, right? Well, he was from a wealthy family. He was here because he hired bandits to murder his older brother's entire household, over 10 people, to steal the family fortune. So yeah, his moral compass was completely shattered. But his ability? Outstanding. He came back with the completed roster in record time. Your Highness, 1,321 brothers are willing to follow you. I've noted all the skilled ones separately. I skimmed the list. Nice. What about weapons and armor in this camp? Chiobai winced. We don't have access to those, Your Highness. We're convicts, right? Of course they wouldn't let death row inmates play with sharp objects. I turned to one of the trembling guards. You? Come here. Why yes, Your Highness. Open the armory. I'm taking everything. Well, would you prefer I carry it myself? My hand drifted to my sword. Hu Chang rumbled behind me, his dinner plate palm twitching. The guard's legs turned to jelly, and he hit the ground. Right away, sir. Opening it now. They cracked open the warehouse, and Chiobai's boys cleaned it out completely. Your Highness, we've got 500 sets of leather armor, 2,000 steel sabers, 200 rattan shields. I frowned. That's IT? For the entire criminal army? This is junk. Chiobai smiled bitterly. Your Highness, we're cannon fodder. The court doesn't exactly invest in our gear. They want us to tire the enemy out, and they're afraid we'll switch sides if we're too well armed. Fair point. But that wasn't going to work for me. I was not sending my guys against barbarians with this garbage. Then my eyes landed on the guards themselves. Now these boys were equipped nicely. Full sets of two-piece iron armor, long spears, ring pommel sabers. The good stuff. All of you. Over here. I smiled at them warmly. The guards shuffled over with the energy of sheep walking into a slaughterhouse. They could smell what was coming. Your Highness? One asked nervously. Take off your armor. What? I said. Take off your armor. Their eyes went wide. The Prince of Ningu was robbing them. But Your Highness, we're the Crown Prince's left guard. Funny you mentioned that. I cut him off cold. Why is the Crown Prince's personal guard running a convict labor camp? Last I checked, the criminal army belongs to the Emperor. Does the Crown Prince own it now? That shut him up instantly. Accusing them of the Crown Prince overstepping imperial authority? That's a death sentence just for hearing it. A few minutes later, here you are, Your Highness. All the armor, over 200 sets of iron armor laid out on the ground, gleaming in the sunlight. Beautiful. The guards stood off to the side, stripped down to their underclothes, huddled together like freshly sheared sheep in winter. Shivering. Pitiful. I looked at those iron sets and smiled. Out in the northeast, the barbarian tribes had terrible armor supplies. It took 20 nomad families saving up for an entire year to afford one single set. With 200 iron armors, I could steamroll the smaller tribes without breaking a sweat. Weapons. Taken. Armor. Taken. Reason to stay in this dump? 0. Chiobai? Get everyone moving. We're leaving. Yes, sir. Over 1,300 convicts marched out of that camp like a pack of starving wolves descending from the mountains. Aggressive. Hungry. Alive. The leftover guards watched us go, standing there in their underwear, mouths hanging open. What do we do? What can we do? This is way above our pay grade. Report to the Crown Prince immediately. Who said the 6th prince was weak? One guard wailed. That's not a prince. That's a bandit king. I led the men to an abandoned camp outside the city. Couldn't exactly march 1,300 death row convicts through downtown and set up base there. Chiobai proved himself again immediately. While everyone else was still terrified of me, he was the only one brave enough to approach. Your Highness, what are your orders? I was starting to really like this kid. Sharp, proactive, knows when to step up. My favorite type of subordinate. Send a few smart guys into the city to buy supplies. Rice, flour, wine, meat, the works. And tell everyone else to go wash in the river. They stink so bad they're going to catch diseases. Chiobai didn't understand the connection between dirt and disease. Nobody in this era did. But he didn't question me for a second. Just memorized every word. On it. Your Highness. As he turned to leave, I called him back. You're Chiobai, right? Don't bother with the errands. Let the others handle it. He froze. Your Highness. You're staying by my side from now on. I've got special work for you. He stood there stunned for about 2 seconds. Then his face lit up like a firework. He knew exactly what this meant. He'd caught the boss's attention. Bai forced out 2 dramatic tears. The man was a born actor, dropped to his knees, and bellowed, "Thank you for seeing my worth, Your Highness. I would walk through fire and climb mountains of blades for you." Meanwhile, at the Crown Prince's palace, not that I was there to see it, but I'll tell you what happened because it matters. The Crown Prince was sitting in the shadows like a villain in a stage play when one of his pretty boy eunuchs came in with the news. "Your Highness, the 6th Prince, walked into the convict camp, killed your officer, took over 1,000 soldiers, and stripped your guards of their armor." The Crown Prince sat there in the dark for a long time. Then, softly, "I underestimated little brother, the eunuch, this guy called Pixie, who apparently had a voice like honey and moved like a dancer, suggested using this as ammunition. He basically committed armed robbery. Report him to the Emperor." But the Crown Prince sighed. "Father won't care. Word already came from the palace. Father is actually annoyed with me right now." Then things got weird. The Crown Prince pulled this eunuch onto his lap and started sniffing his hair. I'm not going to dwell on the Crown Prince's personal life, but let's just say, this imperial family has layers. Why couldn't little brother just die like he was supposed to? The Crown Prince murmured. Pixie massaged his shoulders. "Let him go to the frontier, Your Highness. Once he's outside the capital, he's at your mercy." The Crown Prince twirled a strand of the eunuch's hair around his finger. "Father no longer wants him dead. And I'm just Father's chess piece. I can't go against his wishes, so what will you do? Play the loving big brother, obviously. Father wants to see siblings getting along. I'll give him a show. Tomorrow I'll personally visit the 10 Prince's mansion to send him off. Have the treasury prepare 5,000 taels as a farewell gift. Smart. Creepy, but smart. Now back to MY problems. Your Highness, the 500 taels are gone." Old Young looked like he was delivering a death notice. "Between the deposits on everything from your shopping list and buying supplies for 1,300 hungry convicts, there's nothing left. I'd been back at the mansion for maybe an hour, and I was already broke. Broke. I hadn't even left the capital yet. The imperial salary should arrive tomorrow morning," Old Young said, trying to comfort me. "There's no rush to leave. Wait for the money. Prepare properly. No rush. No rush. I had 0 allies in this court. The Crown Prince wanted me dead, and every day I stayed was another day someone could stick a knife between my ribs. The capital was more dangerous than the barbarian-infested Northeast." I picked up my teacup and took a sip. The smooth porcelain felt expensive against my fingers, and that gave me an idea. I looked up at Old Yang. "These furnishings in the mansion, they're worth money, right? Most were gifts from the palace or things your mother left behind. They're quite valuable." "Wait." His face went pale. "Your Highness, you're not thinking of selling them?" I held up the fancy teacup with a smirk. "What use is pretty junk like this? But this is your only home in the capital. If you sell everything, you'll have nothing. A real man sleeps under the sky and walks on the earth. A few buildings don't make a home." Over in the corner, Bai's eyes practically sparkled. "A prince who talks like that? He picked the right boss to follow." Even so, Old Yang tried again. "Selling in a rush means terrible prices. Who said I'm only selling our stuff?" Old Yang's heart visibly stopped. "This is called the 10 Prince's Mansion," I said, and I could feel the grin spreading across my face. "The other princes moved out ages ago, but their furniture, their decorations, their expensive floors and fancy woodwork, all still here, gathering dust, Your Highness, and oh, absolutely not." Old Yang's eyes were about to pop out. That's the other prince's property. You'd be stealing? Please, I'm recycling. Has a single one of my dear brothers come back here, even once since they moved out? No. Then those aren't possessions. They're donations to the defense of our empire's northeastern border. I'm sure my brothers would understand completely. They're patriots, after all." Old Young looked like he was watching a natural disaster unfold in slow motion. "Bai, here, Your Highness." He appeared instantly like a summoned spirit. "Strip this place from top to bottom. Every building, every room, every corner. Books, medicine, and weapons. Keep those. Everything else that's worth money? Gone. The expensive hardwood panels in the rooms? Rip them out. Leave just enough pillars so the roofs don't collapse. The jade and marble floor tiles? Pry them up. Carefully though, don't chip them. The fancy furniture? Sell it all. Chobai's jaw was on the floor. He thought he was a criminal. But his new boss had more bandit energy than every gang leader in the convict camp combined. This wasn't looting. This was an archaeological excavation of my brother's abandoned wealth. You deaf? I kicked him when he didn't move fast enough. Go. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. He scrambled off with every servant in the house. Old Yang watched them go, closed his eyes, and let out the longest, most defeated sigh I've ever heard. The 10 Princes mansion was about to become the 10 empty rooms mansion. Next morning, bright and early, I was in the middle of supervising the great mansion heist when a servant came running in. Your Highness, the Crown Prince is here. With several carts of gifts, I looked around at the absolute disaster zone that used to be the main hall. Walls half-stripped, floor tiles pried up, furniture gone. It looked like a tornado had hit a museum. What does he want? Seriously, this guy tried to get me killed yesterday, and now he's showing up with presents. Does he think I'm stupid, or does he think I'm stupid? Put him in the side hall. It's the only room we haven't completely gutted yet. The Crown Prince walked in with only his pet eunuch Pixie. No guards. I had to give him credit for the acting. Warm smile, concerned eyes, the whole performance. Sixth brother, how's your head wound? Getting better? Oh my God, the audacity. You literally orchestrated the thing that made me crack my skull on a pillar, and now you're asking about the wound? I wanted to throw my tea in his face. Instead, I just sipped it coolly. No need for your concern. Almost healed. He didn't even flinch at my coldness. Just kept the act going. You're heading to your territory soon. I brought some gifts, things you'll need out on the frontier. He clapped his hands, and his guards carried in these massive, heavy chests. Thud, thud, thud. They hit the floor, and you could tell from the sound alone these were loaded with valuables. I barely glanced at them, just stared straight at the Crown Prince. He smiled that fake smile. Anything else you need, little brother? Just say the word. Are you trying to buy me off? I said flatly. A few boxes of junk, and we pretend you didn't try to murder me. His smile froze. He clearly expected me to play along with his little reconciliation theater. Maybe bow, shed a grateful tear, the whole show. He waved the guards out and dropped some of the warmth from his voice. Brother, we're family. You're leaving the capital. No more conflict of interest between us. Can't we just move on? I stared at him. This man had me framed for witchcraft because I was living in the same city as him. That was it. That was the conflict. He had such extreme paranoia that my mere existence in the capital was a threat to him. What conflict did I ever have with you that you needed me dead? I asked, ice in my voice. When you planted that cursed doll in my room, were you thinking of me as a brother? Forget the polite games. I was done pretending. You don't smile at the guy who tried to bury you. I don't know what you're talking about. His face went blank. That doll was found in your room. Nothing to do with me. I almost laughed out loud. Then I leaned forward with a grin. Your Highness, you want to know how I knew you planted it? The Crown Prince frowned. He could sense something bad coming. I looked down at his left leg, the one with the limp he tried so hard to hide, and smiled. Because the doll's left leg was shorter than its right leg. Like someone had snapped it, exactly like yours. His face twisted. Every muscle contorted into pure rage. That leg was his deepest insecurity. The Crown Prince of the entire empire, future ruler of all the land, with a crippled leg. His darkest secret, his greatest shame, and I just dragged it into the sunlight and stomped on it. Li Che, you're asking to die. I exhaled long and slow. Ah, that felt good. See? This is so much better. We both want each other dead. Why pretend otherwise? He shot to his feet, face dark as a thundercloud. Fine. Fine. You chose this, Li Che. I waved lazily. I won't bother seeing you out, big brother. Wash your neck and wait, he snarled, then stormed out. His guards scrambled after him. I noticed every single one of them was very carefully not looking at his bad leg as he limped away at high speed, which only made the limp more obvious. The second, the absolute second, his shadow disappeared from view, I dropped the act. I dove onto those treasure chests like a starving wolf. Ha ha ha. Jackpot. Jackpot. Old Yang stood there watching me with his mouth hanging open wide enough to park a horse. Holy, look at all this silver. This has to be thousands of taels. My hands were literally shaking with excitement. Salt. Premium refined salt. My dear big brother is so generous. What's this? A crystal goblet? What am I supposed to do with this fancy garbage? Sell it. I was tearing through boxes like a kid on his birthday. Every chest was better than the last. Look, Did I intentionally provoke the crown prince into a murderous rage? Yes. Was that dangerous? Extremely. But here's my logic. He was already going to try to kill me. Whether I smiled and bowed or spat in his face, the result was the same. He wanted me dead. So I might as well make him angry enough to storm off and leave the gifts behind. 5,000 taels worth of supplies and treasure, hand-delivered to my door by the guy who wanted me dead. Beautiful. Chef's kiss. No notes. Now, what I didn't see was what happened in the crown prince's carriage after he left. His fists were clenched so hard his knuckles went white. That handsome face looked worse than a demon mask. I want him dead. I want him dead. He grabbed Pixie by the collar. Go to Mangdang Mountain. Tell Fan Shom, through gritted teeth, barely human. I want Li Che's head. I want him torn to pieces. Ground to dust. So yeah, I'd say our brotherly relationship was officially beyond repair. Worth it though. That salt alone was going to be incredibly useful. I squatted on the ground like a goblin counting treasure, rifling through those chests with zero dignity. Gotta hand it to the crown prince. Even when he's faking friendship, he goes all out. 5,000 taels of silver. A chest of premium salt. A chest of spices. A chest of shoe silk. A chest of fine tea. Plus a bunch of gold ornaments, pearls, jade antiques. Pretty to look at. Useless to eat. Sell, sell, sell. But the real prize? A suit of black armor at the bottom of one chest. Hundreds of small iron plates linked together, engraved with dragon patterns. A genuine chain-link scale armor, the kind money can't even buy on the open market. Light, tough, beautiful. Too bad I couldn't wear it. This was a gift from the crown prince. The same crown prince who just screamed about wanting me dead. What if this thing was soaked in slow-acting poison? I'd be itching myself to death within a month, and everyone would call it a skin disease. Whatever. Once I get to the northeast and find the mineral deposits I remember, I can forge something even better. Old Yang was watching me with this complicated expression. I could tell what he was thinking. His sweet, gentle young master had turned into a feral raccoon overnight. Your Highness, he said carefully, you really shouldn't have antagonized the crown prince like that. What if he sends assassins? A wise man doesn't stand under a crumbling wall. Haha. Old Yang. I didn't even look up from the loot. If I'd played nice and made friends with the crown prince, how would the emperor feel about that? The emperor. Think about it. Yesterday, I nearly died because of the crown prince. If today I'm suddenly best buddies with him, what does the emperor think? He thinks I'm a deep schemer, a cunning snake who can swallow humiliation and play the long game. Does that sound like someone he'd trust as a border lord? I grabbed a silver ingot and squeezed it. I need to be loud, reckless, angry. I need the emperor to look at me and think, that boy is just throwing a tantrum, fighting with his brother, sulking at daddy. The more immature I seem, the safer I am. A raging fool is never a threat. Old Yang stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. I never realized your highness thought so deeply. I'm ashamed I misjudged you. Hey, none of that. I waved him off. We're family. And dropped the formal speech. His eyes went red. Old Yang, the old me wasn't stupid. I was just patient. But yesterday, I almost died, and I finally understood. There's a limit to patience. Keep backing up, and eventually there's nowhere left to go. I know, he sniffled. You've always been clever and kind. Just like your mother. I didn't know what to say about the mother I'd never actually met. So I just helped him up and changed the subject. I need you to keep handling the supply purchases. I've got something else to take care of. What's that? I've got my army. But a kingdom needs more than soldiers. It needs brains, I smiled. What's the most important thing for building up from nothing? Talent, talent, and more talent. Meanwhile, over in the Yangshin Hall, the emperor was doing what he did every morning, working before dawn like a maniac. That's the downside of hoarding all the power. You have to personally handle every little thing. He put down his last report and asked casually, "How's my sixth son doing?" Huang Jin slithered over with perfectly tempered tea and began his report. Credit to the old snake. He didn't exaggerate or twist anything this time. The sixth prince went to the convict camp, recruited 1,300 men, took all their weapons, killed the crown prince's officer who tried to stop him, and stripped the guards of their armor. The emperor actually laughed. Good kid. Go on. The 10 Princes' mansion has its gates wide open. Servants are hauling furniture and valuables out to pawn shops. The emperor's mouth twitched. He wanted to say something, but he didn't. Also, the crown prince visited this morning. They spoke briefly. The crown prince left. Upset, the crown prince lost to him. The emperor sipped his tea. His face was quite unhappy when he departed. Huh. Cold smile. The crown prince of the empire, and he can't even keep his composure against a teenager. He set the cup down. That brat is still mad at me, isn't he? Every other prince in the empire trembled in his presence. Not a single one dared breathe wrong. But his sixth son? Throwing tantrums, looting mansions, picking fights with the heir to the throne. And the weird part? The emperor wasn't angry. If anything, he seemed almost amused. Let him be. He waved his sleeve. Has anyone from the court volunteered to serve under him? No one, Your Majesty. Of course not. Every official in this city is too comfortable. Who'd volunteer for a frozen wasteland? By tradition, a prince's administration needed at least 30 officials. And usually when a prince headed to his territory, ambitious low-ranking officials would line up to volunteer. It was a shortcut to promotion. But nobody wanted to work for me. The unlucky prince with the worst reputation, heading to the worst land in the empire. I might as well have been recruiting for a funeral. The emperor reached behind his chair and pulled out a thick booklet from the shelf. Deliver his salary and provisions. And give him this. He tossed it to Huang Jin. The old eunuch caught it, glanced at the cover, and his eyes went wide. He immediately looked away, not daring to read further. Tell him my offer still stands. Any official ranked 7 or below, he can recruit. But whether anyone's willing to follow him to that frozen hellscape, that's his problem to solve. Huang Jin stepped out of the emperor's hall clutching that booklet, and a cold wind hit him. He looked down and saw the bright red seal of the Jinui, the emperor's secret police, stamped on the cover, and nearly had a heart attack. This was the secret police's master list of every low-ranking official in the empire. Their backgrounds, their skills, their dirty laundry. The kind of document that only the emperor himself had ever read cover to cover. And now he was handing it to me. I could practically hear the gears turning in Huang Jin's wrinkly old head. If the emperor trusted the sixth prince with this, then the sixth prince's stock had just gone through the roof. What if the crown prince screwed up badly enough to lose his position? Could the sixth prince possibly? No. He'd shake that thought away. Too many princes ahead of me in line. But a powerful border lord? That was basically guaranteed now. And that meant Huang Jin, who had spent years licking the crown prince's boots and treating me like garbage, had made a very, very bad investment. Time to switch teams. A convoy of carts loaded with my imperial salary rolled out of the palace, and Huang Jin personally escorted them to my door. He sent in a formal visiting card and everything. Very polite, very respectful. A complete 180 from yesterday when he was whispering death threats into my corpse's ear. I'd just finished counting the crown prince's gifts when a servant told me the old eunuch was here. My first thought, this guy is the crown prince's lapdog. Is he going to skim my salary? Ah Chong. Let the old castrated dog in. Hu Chong was in the corner demolishing a bread bun the size of his head. He dropped it instantly, bounded to the gate, and planted himself in front of Huang Jin like a mountain blocking out the sun. You Huang Jin? Why yes, that's me. Hu Chong squinted at him. My master says the old castrated dog can come in now. Huang Jin. Look, those were my exact words. But most people would paraphrase a little, you know? Add some diplomatic polish. Not Ah Chong. He delivered insults with the same energy. He delivered everything. Maximum force, zero filter. Huang Jin swallowed his pride and followed Ah Chong inside. The second he stepped through the gates, his jaw hit the floor. The Ten Princes Mansion, once a gleaming showcase of imperial luxury, looked like a demolition site. Stripped walls, missing railings, empty rooms. 2 guys were carrying an entire door past him. A gorgeous Wangwali rosewood door that, if he wasn't mistaken, used to belong to the Prince of Qin's bedroom. Stop gawking, old castrated dog. Don't keep my master waiting, Hu Chong grunted. Huang Jin pulled himself together and walked into the side hall. I was lounging in my chair, playing with a crystal goblet. Old Yang stood beside me, giving Huang Jin a look that could freeze lava. And Xiaobai was lurking in the corner with his signature creepy smile that said, I've killed people and I'd do it again. Great atmosphere. Very welcoming. This humble servant greets the Prince of Ningu. Huang Jin bowed deep. I slowly looked up. His eyes were doing that thing where they couldn't quite meet mine. Guilty dog behavior. What brings you here, eunuch? His face twisted into the most pathetic boot-licking smile I'd ever seen. "Oh, your highness, I've brought your salary and imperial gifts." His Majesty personally ordered everything prepared. Prince-level stipend, 12,000 stones of grain per year, plus fabric, salt, spices, and imperial wine. I supervised every detail myself, not a single grain missing. "Would your highness like to count it?" I snorted. "Since when are you so polite to me? You didn't talk like this yesterday." He flinched. "Yeah, I remember everything, old man. Your highness, I was foolish before. I've seen the error of my ways." I stared at him. This was my first time dealing with a eunuch up close, and wow, the man had zero shame. Yesterday, he was gloating over my dead body. Today, he was practically wagging his tail. But that's what eunuchs are. They're the emperor's dogs. When the master changes his tone, the dog changes its tricks. Then he pulled out the booklet, held it above his head with both hands, reverent as a priest offering a holy relic. "His Majesty heard you haven't found your officials yet, so he sent this for you to review." Old Yang took it and brought it to me. I flipped through a few pages and my eyes went wide. This was the Jinyui's classified personnel file. Every minor official in the empire with detailed profiles. Skills, connections, weaknesses, everything. This was an absolute goldmine for recruitment. I never expected the emperor to give me something this valuable. Yesterday's performance really did unlock some fatherly feelings in that frozen heart of his. I slammed the booklet shut and turned ice cold. "Huang Jin, yesterday you were praying for my death. You think I forgot?" His face crumbled. I was out of my mind. I said terrible things. "Your highness is magnanimous. Surely you can." I raised my hand to cut him off. "I'm too busy to hold grudges over petty nonsense. But you came here to apologize with nothing but words? Where's the sincerity?" His eyes went huge. "Wait, the delivery guy has to pay." But he could see my expression. The "you're not leaving until you bleed" expression. He knew what this was. He gritted his teeth. This was going to hurt. I have a small courtyard in the capital." "Stop. I'm leaving the capital." "What do I want with a courtyard?" He leaned in close and whispered. "Inside the courtyard there are 10 Kunlun slaves, 10 Scylla maids, and 500 gold. Tails buried under the willow tree. Not enough." His old face twisted in agony. A long pause. Then, like a man ripping off a bandage, "Outside the city, I have a farm. 50 horses, 10 cattle, 30 sheep, 300 chickens and ducks, plus a stockpile of grain and feed. All yours." What else?" I could see actual tears forming in his eyes. "When your highness passes through Jinding Prefecture on the way to your territory. On the west side of town, I have an estate. 5,000 stones of grain stored inside, plus salt, hay, farming tools. Take everything." Finally, I let the smile break through. "Oh my, Eunuch Huang, why are you still standing? Bai, get this man a chair. Where are your manners?" Bai scrambled to fetch a seat, probably as confused as everyone else by my sudden warmth. "Here's my philosophy. Old dog, young dog, castrated dog, doesn't matter. Any dog that brings me money is a good dog." Huang Jin practically sprinted out of my mansion, sweating like a pig in a sauna. I could almost hear his internal screaming. The emperor's anti-corruption campaigns make it so hard to steal money, and now this little brat just shook me down for half my life savings. But I also knew what he was thinking right after. At least this prince only wants money. The other princes force you to pick sides in their political games. Money I can earn back. A wrong political bet gets you executed. Smart man. Horrible person, but smart. The second he was gone, I grabbed that secret personnel booklet and dove in. Oh, this was beautiful. Detailed profiles on every minor official in the empire. Their skills, their backgrounds, their specialties. The emperor basically handed me a shopping catalog for government employees. Now, the question was, how do I actually get these people? The emperor gave me this list as a test, obviously. With my garbage reputation, if I sent polite invitations, 90% would laugh and throw them away. Nobody wanted to follow the empire's most pathetic prince to a frozen wasteland. If I pushed too hard, they'd just resign from their government jobs entirely rather than come with me. So what's the play? Visit them 3 times like that famous historical story? Bribe them? Cry and beg? Nah, too slow. Too much effort. I decided to take inspiration from a certain famous warlord from northeast China in my old world's history. His recruitment strategy was beautifully simple. No begging. No bribing. Just kidnapping. "Huiubai, Your Highness, go to the camp. Bring me 50 guys who are good fighters and know the city layout. On it. He didn't even ask why. Good man. I turned to old Yang. The stuff outside, the crown prince's gifts, Huang Jin's tribute, the furniture we stripped, sell all the luxury garbage and convert it to grain, seeds, medicine, and tools. Same as before. Consider it done. He bowed and left. Then I was alone with my beautiful booklet. I cracked it open and grinned. All right, let's see which lucky winners get the incredible opportunity to join me in the Northeast. Half an hour later, I strolled out of the side hall with a fresh list in my hand. The yard was packed. 50 of my cleanest, sharpest convict soldiers stood waiting. They'd washed, changed clothes, eaten well. They actually looked like real soldiers now instead of walking corpses. When they saw me, they rushed forward in a messy swarm of greetings. Some bowed. Some dropped to their knees. Some just shouted. Zero discipline. I'd need to drill that into them later. All right. Everyone up. I plopped down on the doorstep like a street vendor. How's everyone feeling? Fed, bathed, and rested? Thanks to your highness. We haven't felt this good in years, a loudmouth guy answered immediately. I looked at him. You're Wang Sanshun, right? The bandit chief. He jolted like I'd tasered him. Your highness remembers my name? I just smiled. Truth was, I could only remember the notable ones. But to them, a prince remembering a convict's name meant he actually cared about scum like them. The psychological impact was priceless. Since everyone's rested up, I need a favor. Wang Sanshun dropped to one knee. Whatever you command. We'll fight to the death. Save the dramatic speeches. I grinned. I've picked out some talented officials I want for my kingdom. Problem is, they probably think Ningu is a frozen dumpster and won't come willingly. So I need you boys to go. Invite them. Wang Sanshun blinked. Invite? A wiry guy behind him immediately caught on and cackled. You moron, kidnapping. He wants us to grab them. Do we really need this explained? Every convict's eyes lit up simultaneously. Kidnapping? You want us to kidnap people? Sir, you could not have picked a more qualified team. This is literally what half of US did for a living. We've been waiting for a chance to repay you, and you hand us this? I pulled Xiaobai aside and gave him the list. Every person on here. Not one missing. Not one harmed. Clear, crystal clear. Your Highness. 50 men suited up. Ropes on their belts. Burlap sacks tucked in their waistbands. They slipped out the back gate in small groups, spreading through the capital like shadows. These guys had all operated in the city before. They knew every alley, every shortcut, every dark corner. Within minutes, they'd located their first target. Lu Yi, engineering department section chief, a middle-aged man with a long beard turned around groggily. Who's calling him? A massive arm shot out from the shadows and clamped over his mouth. Wang Sanshun pulled a burlap sack from his belt with a practiced flourish and popped it over the man's head. Identity confirmed. Bag him. Lu Ye's world went dark. His only thought, who? Secret police? Bandits? I'm going to die. Xiaobai calmly crossed the name off the list with his fingernail. Next, across town. A small house in a quiet neighborhood. Urgent knocking. Wang Shi, an official from the Astronomy Bureau, was still in his work robes. He hurried to the door. Coming. Who is it? The door cracked open and was immediately shoved wide. A wall of muscle poured in. Who are you people? You can't just barge into a government official's MMPH. Wang Sanchuan's sack technique was getting smoother with each target. One toss, one scoop, one shoulder carry. Beautiful form. Why does His Highness keep grabbing these tiny nobodies? He grumbled. Don't question the boss, Xiaobai said. He has his reasons. Wang Sanshun gave him a dirty look. Who made you the boss of me? Before Xiaobai could respond, a young man burst out of the house screaming. Hey, what are you doing? That's my father. Let him go, Xiaobai sighed. And you are? I'm Wang Chongjian. Engineering department clerk. Xiaobai checked the list. Looked at the name. Looked at Wang Chongjian. Looked at the name again. He's on the list too. Bag him, Wang Chongjian. Back at the mansion, I stood in the courtyard with my hands behind my back, surveying my operation. Through the front gate, cart after cart of supplies rolling in. Grain, seeds, tools, fabric, everything old Yang had converted from the sold luxury goods. Through the back gate, one wriggling burlap sack after another, delivered by grinning convict soldiers. Supplies from the front, talent from the back. A perfectly balanced operation. I threw my head back and laughed. The great revival of the Northeast is looking very promising. Wang Sanshun tossed the last wriggling burlap sack into the room like a delivery man dropping off a package. Bin, Treasury Department storage official. Bai crossed off the final name and bowed. Your Highness, every person on the list has been successfully invited. Not one missing. I looked at the room full of squirming sacks and nearly lost it. It looked like a warehouse of angry caterpillars. I coughed to compose myself. Take the bags off. My guys yanked the sacks off everyone's heads, cackling the whole time. Sunlight hit the officials' faces, and they all winced and blinked like moles dragged out of their holes. Then they saw me, and the room erupted. The sixth prince. Wait, he's the one who. That useless. That esteemed sixth prince. This is outrageous. Kidnapping government officials. This is lawless. I'm filing a complaint with the emperor tomorrow. I let them scream for a bit. Get it out of their systems. Then I strolled up to the first target. All right, settle down. Let me talk. Something about my tone made them all shut up. Weird how that works. I stopped in front of a middle-aged man. Wang Shi, former deputy director of the Imperial Observatory. In the third year of Taishu, you proposed that the Earth is round, shaped like an egg yolk inside a shell. The academic establishment laughed you out of the room and demoted you. Correct. Wang Shi's eyes went wide. Yes, Your Highness has heard of me, I smiled. Tell me, Wang Shi, have you ever been to the coast? When you watch a ship approach from far away on the ocean, what do you see first, the mast or the hull? The mast. His brain was visibly working. Then his face exploded with excitement. Because the Earth is curved. The ocean surface follows the curve, and you see the top first. You believe me, observation leads to understanding. But you need to do more field work to prove your theories. I patted his shoulder and moved on while he stood there having a religious experience. Next up, his son, Wang Chongjian. The guy we'd grabbed as a bonus. Wang Chongjian worked on Yellow River flood control. You disagreed with your boss's terrible plan to disperse water flow and got blacklisted by the engineering department. Wang Chongjian's face went red with old anger. That plan was garbage. Full of holes. It would have caused more flooding. What did I do wrong? Nothing. I nodded. In fact, I believe the best long-term solution is to build inner levees to channel the river and outer levees to prevent overflow. Use the focused water pressure to flush out the silt naturally. What do you think? His jaw dropped. My strategy matched his own ideas, and might have been even better. Beyond Shanghai Pass there are rivers that flood too, I said casually. Your expertise would be very useful there. He went quiet. I could see the gears turning. He wanted to discuss more, but he also realized I was recruiting him. Smart kid. Then I came to the big fish. Bin, Treasury Department official. But that boring title hid the truth. This man was the greatest mathematician alive. He'd even tutored the imperial princes in math, including the original Li Che. Teacher Qian, I bowed respectfully. This man had earned it. He didn't flinch. Your Highness kidnapped me here. Are you trying to trick this old man into following you to that frozen wasteland? Teacher, you were originally a classical Confucian scholar, but you abandoned that path and devoted yourself to mathematics. 3 times, year 1, year 3, and year 5 of Taishu. You petitioned the emperor to add mathematics to the imperial examinations. 3 times he said no, and because of those petitions, the entire court turned against you. Your rank kept shrinking. They punished you over every little thing. For the first time, emotion crossed his face. He let out a heavy sigh. The world thinks math is a trivial skill. They don't see the profound wisdom hidden inside it. What can an old man do? Profound wisdom. It's more than that. I couldn't contain my excitement. Teacher, I believe mathematics is the foundation of all knowledge. Dead silence. Every official in the room stared at me like I'd just declared the sky was green. In this world, Confucian philosophy was king. Mathematics was considered a minor trade skill. Nice to have, not important. Saying math was the foundation of everything was basically heresy. I might as well have slapped Confucius in the face. Even Bin, the man who dedicated his life to mathematics, looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Think I'm wrong? I grinned. Let me ask you all something. I turned to Wang Shi. You study astronomy. You calculate star positions and calendar dates. Do you use math? Well, of course, Wang Chongjian. Your department builds bridges, roads, machines, and dams. Can any of that work without math? No, he admitted. Without mathematical foundations, none of those projects could function. I swept my gaze across the whole room. All of you, think about your work. Is there a single thing you do that doesn't require mathematics? They thought. Hard. Nobody could argue. Some of the sharper ones also noticed something. Almost everyone I'd kidnapped came from the engineering department, the observatory, or the imperial workshop. The technical people. The practical people. That's right. In my eyes, you are all missionaries of mathematics. You are the people in this government who actually get things done. The rest of the court saw them as bottom-tier officials doing trivial craftsman work. But to me, every single one of them was a scientist waiting to be unleashed. Mathematicians, astronomers, engineers, weapons specialists. Compared to those useless Confucian windbags who could quote classics all day but couldn't build a toilet, these men were the real talent. If the world thinks math is useless, let's prove them wrong. I'm building a school in my territory. Mathematics, engineering, medicine, real subjects. You'll be the first professors. When your students enter the government and outperform everyone else, that's when your names go down in history. That's when you become the founders of something that lasts forever. My voice was rising. I could feel the energy in the room shifting. Eyes were getting brighter. Because what's every official's ultimate dream? To be remembered. To found a school of thought. To change the world and have people know your name 1,000 years later. I was offering them that chance. But of course, I brought it back down to earth. Dreams don't fill stomachs. Before any of that, I need your help developing my territory. The Northeast is an untouched treasure chest, just like all of you. Diamonds covered in dust. The room went quiet again. Developing the Northeast was a nice speech, but everyone knew how impossible it sounded. No dynasty had ever tamed that land. I read the room. Time for the final weapon. Anyone who joins the Ningu kingdom gets double salary. Eyebrows went up. And I'm paying 3 months in advance. Right now? So you can settle your families before we leave? Thud. 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 My guys walked out from behind me carrying fat money bags and dropped them at everyone's feet. Now here's the thing about low-ranking officials in this empire. The emperor was so obsessed with frugality that he'd slashed government salaries to almost nothing. High-ranking officials could scrape by. But these small fry? Without family money, they could barely survive in the expensive capital. Silver coins glinted through the open bags. Every official in the room was trying so hard to look dignified and uninterested while their eyes were magnetically pulled toward the money. Dream of glory plus actual food on the table? That hit different. Of course, I won't force anyone. If you don't want to join, you're free to leave. I gestured toward the door behind me, where Chiu Bai and Wang Sanchun stood on either side, arms crossed, smiling the most terrifying smiles imaginable. Their eyes were sharp enough to cut glass. The message was clear. You can leave. Technically. If you feel like testing whether your head stays attached. A cold shiver ran through the room. Nobody moved toward the door. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Every official was clearly tempted. Dreams of glory, double salary, money right there in front of them. But they were still hesitating. Because the Northeast was a frozen hellhole. Everyone knew it. Could a place like that really support grand ambitions? Then a hand shot out and grabbed a money bag. Everyone jumped. It was Wang Chongjian, the young river engineer. His father Wang Shi stared at him in shock. Son you, father. Wang Chongjian gripped that bag like a lifeline, eyes burning. Are you really going to waste your entire life's knowledge rotting in that useless observatory? I have the skills to control floods. I have the passion for it. Why should I spend my whole life as an errand boy in the engineering department? He walked up to me and bowed. Your Highness, I'm in. Excellent. I pulled him to his feet. Wang Shi watched his son for a long moment, then sighed, grabbed his own money bag, and shuffled over to stand next to him. Getting old. Can't even match my own boy's courage. Father and son, side by side. If your Highness will have us, we'll give everything we've got. Perfect. I was grinning ear to ear. Father and son serving together. That's the stuff legends are made of. The Wang family was well known in the capital. The moment they committed, the dam broke. Officials started standing up one after another, snatching money bags left and right. Lu Yi. Willing to serve. Go Hong. Willing to serve. Jiao Miao. Willing to serve. Within minutes, the entire room had lined up in front of me. Except one person. Old Qian Bin, the math grandmaster, still standing in the corner with his eyes closed like he was meditating at a temple, completely unbothered. I walked over to him after thanking everyone else. Teacher Qian, you still won't help me? He opened his eyes slowly. And to my surprise, he was smiling. Who would have thought? The most invisible prince in the classroom turned out to be my best student. I smiled back respectfully, while simultaneously calculating in my head. If this old man says no, I'm calling Hu Chang over to knock him unconscious, and we're tying him to a cart heading northeast. Non-negotiable. Qian Bin chuckled, shook his head, and bent down to pick up his money bag. Does your highness's school have a spot for this old man? H.A. The position of head dean has been waiting for you this whole time. Well then, if your highness has such grand ambitions, this old fool might as well risk one more adventure. The biggest rock on my chest finally rolled off. With Qian Bin on board, I had my dream team. A full roster of technical talent. The first real foundation for building my territory. I immediately had everyone escorted to guest rooms with the best food and wine we had. Were they allowed to go home? Absolutely not. What if they changed their minds overnight? Anyone worried about their family could send a messenger. But their butts were staying right here. After wrapping up the recruitment, I was in such a good mood, I was literally humming as I walked through the courtyard. Hu Chang trailed behind me, munching a bread cake the size of a dinner plate. The mansion was buzzing with activity. So many supply carts were coming and going that I'd ordered the back door's threshold ripped out entirely. It was slowing down traffic. I'd spent an obscene amount of money these past 2 days. But looking at the mountains of supplies piling up in the yard, worth every coin. Old Yang was directing the logistics. He spotted me and bowed. Your Highness, how's it going? All the jewelry and luxury items have been converted to silver. Most things on your shopping list are purchased. But grain is tricky, hard to transport, and we're short on manpower. Haven't bought much yet. Tell them to stop buying grain, I said. We have enough for now. Capital prices are inflated anyway, and we'd lose a ton to spoilage on the road. We'll buy more after we leave the city. And the seeds? How many varieties did you find? Quite a few, but I can't identify most of them. Now we were talking. Show me. He led me to a storeroom packed with seeds collected from all over the city. Some had sample plants next to them. Others were just mystery bags. Lucky for me, I once dated an agriculture major back in my old life. Didn't last, but I picked up enough plant knowledge to be useful. Thanks, ex-girlfriend. Your boring lectures finally paid off. I started sorting through everything. Cilantro, garlic, green onion. Good. At least we won't eat bland food. Wait, is this chili pepper? My eyes lit up. This is perfect for cold climates. We can grow this everywhere. Cucumber, sesame, tomato, peanuts. Hold on. My gaze locked onto a small, unremarkable bag in the corner. I rushed over and tore it open. Golden kernels spilled out. Plump. Beautiful. My hands started shaking. This. I couldn't form sentences. Your Highness, we bought those from some foreign merchants. They called it jade sorghum, or something, Old Yang said. Jade sorghum? I held one kernel up to the light, examining it like a jeweler inspecting a diamond. This is corn, Old Yang. Corn? I've never heard of it. Hu Chang paused his bread demolition to glance at the kernels in my hand. Corn. Is it tasty? Looks too small to fill a stomach. But if the boss is this excited, must be good. He shrugged and went back to his bread. My mind was racing. Corn shouldn't exist in this part of the world yet, unless those foreign merchants had been to the Americas or traded with someone who had, which meant they might have other seeds from the New World. Like potatoes? Sweet potatoes? Those 2 crops alone could solve famine for an entire civilization. I grabbed Old Yang by the shoulders. Those foreign merchants, where are they? He shook his head sadly. I bought all their seeds yesterday. When I went back today, they were gone. Already left the capital. Besides the corn, what else did you buy from them? Old Yang brought over the rest of the seeds from the foreign merchants. I checked each one, hoping, praying. Cabbage, watermelon, grapes. That's it. No potatoes. No sweet potatoes. None of the other game-changing crops from the Americas. That's everything. My heart sank. But honestly, it sank for about 3 seconds before the corn excitement pulled it right back up. Corn. On the black soil of the Northeast. Do you have any idea what that combination means? It's like putting rocket fuel in a race car. Sure, this corn hasn't been genetically optimized like the stuff from my old world, so the yields won't be as insane. But compared to every other crop in this empire, It would absolutely destroy them. Old Yang, guard these seeds with your life. Especially the ones I picked out. Understood. I tucked the corn seeds inside my inner shirt lining. Against my skin. These little golden kernels were worth more than every piece of gold and silver in this entire courtyard combined. I wasn't letting them out of my sight. I turned around and saw Hu Chang gnawing on yet another giant bread cake. Ah Chang, why do you always eat plain bread? Go to the kitchen and get some meat. I told you, you can eat anything you want. He scratched his head. Bread fills me up better. I stared at this lovable idiot. Fine. Eat your bread, big guy. Old Yang, buy more carts. I think it's time. Time for what, Your Highness? I rubbed the seeds through my shirt and smiled. Tomorrow morning. The second those city gates open. We leave. The next day. Just before dawn. Somewhere inside the palace, the emperor finished his breakfast and gazed at the first light breaking over the horizon. He felt something strange. An emptiness. Huangjin, yes, Your Majesty. Anything happening today? Nothing major, sire. However, the sixth prince, what about him? The 10 Prince's mansion opened its gates early this morning. His carts and supplies are all packed. Something flickered across the emperor's face. He's leaving today? He's not even going to come say goodbye. Huang Jin kept his head down. Smart man. Another son leaving for the frontier. This enormous palace. Now it's just me and the crown prince. The emperor stared out the window, past the walls, into the distance. For just a moment, he looked like a lonely old man instead of a tyrant. Your Majesty's birthday celebration is approaching, Huang Jin offered cautiously. If you miss the princes, you could summon them to the capital. No. The travel costs alone are wasteful. Better to spend that money on disaster relief in the south. Your Majesty's compassion knows no bounds, Huang Jin said. Perfectly timed flattery. Then the emperor's tone went cold. What's the crown prince doing? The crown prince has contacted the bandits of Mangdang Mountain. He plans to ambush and kill the sixth prince on the road. Yeah. Huang Jin was done playing both sides. When the emperor favored the crown prince, he was team crown prince. Now that the wind had shifted, he was reporting everything. His only true loyalty had always been to the emperor himself. The crown prince is getting ambitious, the emperor said, his voice dropping several degrees. Shall I send troops to clear out Mangdang Mountain? Is there anyone else involved besides the mountain bandits? No, however. The Chang family's eldest daughter apparently heard about the sixth prince disrespecting the crown prince. She left home yesterday, heading toward Mangdang Mountain. The emperor's face went dark. The Chang girl? I haven't even issued the decree making her crown princess yet, and she's already acting on the crown prince's behalf. She's always admired the crown prince, sire. The Chang family, every single one of them is reckless to the bone. Their patriarch Chang Wudi died too young and left these kids with no discipline. A shadow of memory crossed his face. Chang Wudi, a legendary warrior who'd followed the emperor since the very beginning. Unbeatable on the battlefield. Dead before his time. People said he'd killed so many that karma caught up with him. Then the emperor said something that chilled even Huang Jin. Let them be. If he can't survive a storm of blood and steel, he has no business sitting on any throne. He was talking about me. His own son. And he was going to let assassins come for me as some kind of test. These royals. Every single one of them. Completely insane. But I didn't know any of that yet. What I knew was this. The sun was rising, my carts were packed, and it was time to go. 50 soldiers in iron armor lined the street outside the mansion. Salute to His Highness. The unified shout rang out like a thunderclap, rattling windows up and down the block. Faces appeared behind curtains. Neighbors who'd watched every prince come and go over the years. I stepped out of the 10 Prince's mansion for the last time. Old Yang draped a black cloak with dragon embroidery over my shoulders. It settled on me like it belonged there. Is that the sixth prince? Someone whispered from behind a window. These people had seen the old Li Che 100 times. The boy who walked with his head down, avoiding everyone's eyes. The man standing in the street now, back straight, eyes sharp, radiating authority? They couldn't connect the two. I walked through the formation without looking sideways. Soldiers rose as I passed. Hu Chang brought my horse. I swung up into the saddle in one smooth motion. The horse danced a little, eager to run. I stroked its mane and it calmed instantly. I looked back one last time. The imperial palace loomed behind me, massive and dark. And somehow, I could feel it. A gaze, cold and ancient, watching me from somewhere deep inside those walls. My father, watching his sixth son leave. Maybe forever. I turned forward. No expression on my face. Move out, hooves clattered. Cart wheels groaned under the weight of supplies. The convoy stretched down the street like a snake, rolling toward the city gates. I didn't look back again. From now on, the ocean is wide enough for any fish to swim. The sky is high enough for any bird to fly. First time on a horse, technically. But this body had been riding since childhood, so my muscles knew exactly what to do. Felt like I was born in the saddle. I looked back at my convoy. Most of the workers were homeless drifters old Yang had hired outside the city. Zero loyalty, would bolt at the first sign of trouble. The actual trustworthy servants from my mansion were a small minority. Then I noticed some unusual faces in the crowd. Old Yang. Who are those people? Those are the servants Eunuch Huang gave you, Your Highness. Oh right. The courtyard bribe. 10 Kunlun slaves and 10 Scylla maids. The Kunlun slaves were black men, brought to the empire from distant lands, sold as exotic servants. Strong as oxen, hard-working, obedient. Every noble family wanted them. The Scylla maids were young women from Scylla, a small country on the Korean peninsula that paid tribute to our empire. They'd been selected, trained, and shipped over as gifts for the elite. Beautiful, graceful, sweet-voiced. Basically the first ever K-pop girl group, Ancient Edition. Your Highness, Old Yang whispered, the Kunlun slaves are all castrated. What? Castrated. Huang Jin had them all neutered. My eye twitched violently. That deranged old eunuch. Just because he was missing equipment, he had to do the same to everyone around him? What a psycho. Old Yang seemed unsurprised. Apparently, this was normal behavior for palace eunuchs. Not a single one of them was mentally well-adjusted. Then he got this hopeful look. Your Highness, you'll need to expand your household eventually. These eunuchs could serve your inner chambers. Absolutely not. I didn't care if it was traditional or expected. Having a squad of castrated men hovering around me while I ate, slept, and bathed? No. Just a no. Give them to Hu Chang. He can train them as household soldiers. I vaguely remembered that castrated men actually made surprisingly fierce warriors in some historical contexts. So there was that. Old Yang saw I wasn't budging and switched tactics. Then perhaps the Scylla maids? You could pick a few pretty ones for your personal quarters. I gave him a look. What was with this old man and his obsession with finding me women? I glanced at the Scylla maids. They were all tiny, clearly teenagers. Probably 15, 16 at most. No, absolutely not. Give them to Chioen to manage. A cart curtain flipped open and a little head popped out. Chioen smiled at me, showing her cute tiger teeth. Your Highness, you called? Those girls over there are yours to manage now. Congratulations, you're officially the head maid of the Ningu prince's household. She blinked, nodded sweetly. Okay, Chioen understands. As we talked, the convoy approached the city gate. I looked up at the wall, over 30 feet of solid stone stretching across the road. Impressive. And standing right in front of it, a squad of armored soldiers blocking our path. Halt. State your business. The gate officer planted himself in the middle of the road with his spear raised. I didn't even look at him, just kept riding forward. My Ningu soldiers rested their hands on their sword hilts, grinning at the gate guards like wolves eyeing rabbits. The gate officer's confidence visibly crumbled. He'd committed to this standoff, but the math wasn't matching. My horse was about 3 steps from trampling him when he finally cracked and dropped to one knee. Your Highness, please stop. I squeezed the horse lightly. It halted. Who are you? I asked, sounding thoroughly bored. The gate officer looked up and got a face full of horse. My mount snorted directly into his face. Hot, stinking horse breath blasting him point blank. I'm the spring gate officer, Your Highness. May I ask why you're leading soldiers out of the city, going to my territory? I rested my arm on the saddle. Got a problem with that? The man was drenched in sweat. But someone had obviously ordered him to do this, so he pushed through. I haven't received authorization to let Your Highness pass. I finally looked at him, directly, for the first time. He immediately looked like someone had dropped a mountain on his shoulders. Look up. I used my riding crop to lift his chin. See that? He looked. Behind me, the Ningu war banner, emblazoned with the characters for my territory, was snapping in the wind, massive and bold against the morning sky. Remember what that flag looks like. That is your authorization. I flicked my wrist. The riding crop cracked through the air like a gunshot right next to his ear. He flinched backward so hard, he almost fell over. By the time he recovered, I was already riding through the gate, leaving nothing but dust. "Your Highness, wait," he started, then felt something hard jab into his lower back. He froze, slowly turned his head, and found himself nose to nose with Wang Sanchuan's ugly, grinning face. "Don't move, kid." Wang Sanchun showed all his yellow teeth. "You wiggle 1 inch, and this blade slides right between your armor plates and turns your kidneys into soup." The gate officer turned to stone. He stood perfectly still while my entire convoy, dozens of carts, over 1,000 men, rolled right past him through the gate. When the last cart cleared, Wang Sanchun finally stepped back. "And you thought you could stop our prince? Pathetic." He waved the weapon in front of the officer's face. The gate officer looked down at it. It was a rolling pin. A rolling pin, stolen from a street food stall. He'd been held hostage for 15 minutes by a man threatening him with baking equipment. Wang Sanchun tossed it aside. Then, because he physically could not resist, reached over and slapped the officer's face a couple times. "Run home, kid. Tell your mommy to wash your pants for you." Ha 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 ha. And then he was gone. The gate officer stood alone in the empty road. He looked down. A warm yellow stream was running down the inside of his armor, pooling at his boots. Up on the city wall, the crown prince was watching me leave. I didn't see him, but I'll tell you what happened because it's important. The gate officer, the guy who'd just been held hostage by a rolling pin, stumbled up to the tower and collapsed at the crown prince's feet. "Your Highness, I failed. I couldn't stop him." The crown prince gently helped him up, all warmth and kindness. "It's not your fault. My little brother is just impulsive. You did your best." The gate officer was so moved. Those teary eyes practically screamed, "I would die for this man." The crown prince even sent a eunuch to buy wine and meat for all the gate guards. What a generous leader. Except the second the officer was gone, the crown prince's face went ice cold. He pulled out a handkerchief and started furiously scrubbing the hand that had touched the officer's shoulder. Rubbed it until the skin was raw and red. Pixie had to take over and finish wiping it for him. "Did the messenger reach Mengdang Mountain?" the crown prince asked. "Sent him the moment the 6th prince left. Should arrive in time." That useless gate officer. Disgust dripped from every word. I only needed him to stall for a bit. By time for Fanchong to prepare. And instead, he wets himself. Have him transferred to some border outpost. Garbage like that doesn't deserve the capital. Then he grabbed Pixie's chin. "Tell Fanchong, I've been funding his little mountain army for exactly this moment. Li Che dies, or Fanchong dies. I don't keep useless people." Pixie made his best helpless puppy face. "I understand." The crown prince softened. "Don't be scared. You're different. You're special." Pixie snuggled into his arms. From a distance, they actually looked like a cute couple, if you squinted, and ignored everything. Meanwhile, I had no idea any of that was happening. I was riding alongside Teacher Qianbin's cart. "Teacher Qian, we're outside the city." He poked his head out and bowed. "I saw, Your Highness. Quite the commanding exit. You reminded me of your father in his younger days." I laughed that off. It wasn't that I was impressive. It was that the old Li Che had set the bar underground. That kid was so nice he'd apologize to the flies he accidentally swatted. A virtuous prince who bowed to everyone, including servants. That's how you end up with city gate officers thinking they can block your path. But a prince is still a prince. Even an unpopular one outranks some random gate guard by about 15 levels. Sometimes you just have to remind people. "Teacher, what route should we take to reach Shanghai Pass?" Qianbin stroked his beard. "2 roads from the capital. The eastern coastal route is flooded and impassable. So we take the northern highway, through the Yin Prince's territory, over the Yin Mountains, and then to the pass, the Yin Prince. That was my 4th brother. The best military commander among all the princes. I'd have to cross his land to get to the northeast. Whether he'd cooperate was anyone's guess. The original Li Che barely knew him. Qianbin looked around at our thin escort and frowned. "This route passes through Mengdang Mountain. The bandits there are notorious. The government has tried to clear them out multiple times and failed every time. With our current numbers, I'm worried." I grinned. "Don't worry, teacher. I've got a real fighting force. They'll keep us safe." "Fighting force?" He looked skeptical. "Look," I pointed down the road. "Here they come." A dark mass was approaching from the distance. As it got closer, Qianbin could make out over 1,000 men in leather armor, carrying real weapons, marching in a loose but unmistakably dangerous formation. Their lines were sloppy. Their posture was casual. But the old man could feel it. That unmistakable aura of people who had killed before and would kill again without blinking. Dead eyes with a hint of bloodthirst lurking underneath. These weren't parade soldiers. These were survivors. The column halted in front of my cart. The lead man, big guy, massive scar across his face, dropped to one knee. "Greetings, Your Highness," voice like a war drum. Behind him, 1,300 throats roared in unison. Not perfectly synchronized, but the sheer volume shook the ground. "Greetings, Your Highness." I pulled my reins. "Your heat so long, right? I remember you." The scarred man's whole body trembled with emotion. "Your Highness," I smiled. "Ancient people are wonderfully simple. When you're the boss, sometimes all you have to do is remember someone's name and they'd follow you into hell. That's such a small thing, but most leaders can't be bothered to step down from their pedestals and walk among the common soldiers. Their loss. My gain. Everyone up. They scrambled to their feet. 2 days of rest, real food, and bathing had transformed them. No longer walking corpses. Now they actually looked like hardened warriors. Quick question. Did you eat well these past 2 days? Couldn't eat more if we tried. Did the wine I sent arrive? Yes. Did you sleep well? Best sleep in years. Good. My eyes sharpened. I kept every promise I made to you. Now it's your turn. Every single one of them hit the ground again. 1,300 voices shook the sky. "We will die for Your Highness. We will die for Your Highness." Their needs were so simple it almost broke my heart. Feed them. Let them sleep. Treat them like human beings instead of animals. That's all it took. Whoever did that owned their souls. Inside his cart, Qianbin was watching this whole scene with his jaw hanging open, 2 fingers frozen mid-stroke on his beard. I think he nearly ripped them out. These wild, dangerous, impossible-to-control convict soldiers were kneeling before me with genuine devotion burning in their eyes. Not fake, not forced, real. I could practically hear the old mathematician's brain recalculating everything he thought he knew about me. "This army is ready," he muttered to himself. "And the prince knows how to command men's hearts. I don't know anything about military training theory, but I know people. Those convicts didn't need battle formations or inspirational speeches. They needed 2 things, a chance to live and to be treated like human beings. I gave them both. Done. Army acquired." The convict soldiers merged with my supply convoy, and we finally looked like an actual force. Civilians on the road saw us coming and scattered like pigeons. Can't blame them. In this era, armies and bandits were basically the same thing. Terrible discipline was the norm. My guys were no exception. Their formation was a mess. But we just formed this army 2 days ago, so I had time to whip them into shape. I gave strict orders. Nobody harasses civilians. Just march. We walked from dawn to dusk and covered a whopping 40 miles. For an ancient army, that wasn't terrible, but I was still annoyed. The problem was horses, or rather, the complete lack of them. Every horse we had was pulling a cart. The soldiers were all on foot, which slowed everything down massively. This was going to be a serious issue in the Northeast. Every barbarian tribe out there fought on horseback. Infantry against cavalry was a losing formula. Until I could figure out firearms, which was pretty far down the tech tree, cavalry was still king. "Your Highness, it's getting dark. Should we set up camp?" Chobai interrupted my thoughts. "Anything nearby? There's a relay station about 3 miles ahead. You can rest inside while the men camp around it." I nodded. Some commanders like to play the "I sleep on the ground with my soldiers" card. Not me. I preferred the Huatsubing approach. Clear hierarchy, clear rewards and punishments. Win battles, and the troops will love you. All the sleeping in dirt theater in the world means nothing if you can't deliver victories. The relay station came into view, and it was actually pretty solid. Thick stone walls, square layout, 1 entrance, watchtowers at all 4 corners. A miniature fortress. My soldiers set up camp with surprising efficiency. The ex-thieves and cat burglars automatically formed a scouting perimeter. The others rotated patrol shifts. The rest built fires and started cooking. Nobody had to tell them. Criminal instincts apparently translate well to military operations. I walked into the station with my officials. The station master had spotted my war banner from a mile away and was waiting at the door, bowing so deep his nose nearly touched his knees. Humble servant greets the Prince of Ningu. Relax. Just passing through. Need a place to sleep for the night. Your Highness honors us. Rooms are ready. Food is prepared. He was very polite. Of course, anyone would be polite with 1,300 murderers camped outside their front door. Don't bother with the food. We'll cook our own. Food safety. People. I'd just made enemies of the most powerful prince in the empire. I wasn't eating anything I hadn't watched being prepared. One special ingredient in the soup, and the entire Ningu kingdom leadership gets wiped out before it even reaches its territory. We walked in. 2 clerks were doing paperwork at a desk, and in the corner, huddled together, 7 or 8 people in prisoner rags. My eyes swept over them casually, then stopped. One of the prisoners. Something about him was familiar. I walked closer. The man sensed someone approaching, looked down at my expensive boots, then slowly raised his head. I knew it. I stared. Aren't you supposed to be dead? Father ordered you executed. The man's eyes filled with tears instantly. Sixth Prince? Your Highness, it was the Imperial Doctor. The one who declared the original Li Che dead in the throne room. The one the Emperor sentenced to execution and family exile because of the misdiagnosis. Technically, the original Li Che was dead. This poor guy got punished because I happened to transmigrate into the corpse and wake up. How's that for cosmic unfairness? My family had an amnesty medallion. He stammered, trembling. That's why we were spared execution. I looked around the corner. Old people, children, his entire family, shivering in chains. Rough. Hold on, I said. Our empire has never issued amnesty medallions. It's from the Liang dynasty. I blinked. The Liang dynasty was the dynasty before the previous dynasty. 2 entire governments ago. That medallion was basically an antique. And Father actually honored it. His Majesty showed mercy. He confiscated the medallion and commuted our sentence to exile in Ningu. Looking at his family, old folks, little kids, all in chains, all terrified, I felt a genuine pang of guilt. This man's life was ruined, and I was at least partly responsible. Well, you're being exiled to Ningu anyway, and that's my territory. You might as well work for me. I helped him stand. What's your name? Hua. Hua Chang'an. Hua? Your surname is Hua? I broke into a grin. That's a natural-born doctor's name right there. He looked completely baffled by that comment. No way he'd know about Hua Tuo, the legendary physician from my world's history who shared his surname. Didn't matter. He was grateful enough to cry. After all, he'd accidentally killed me with a wrong diagnosis, and here I was offering him a position instead of revenge. Following a prince was infinitely better than stumbling through the wilderness in chains with regular convicts. You too. I pointed at the escorting officers. Remove their shackles. All of them. The 2 clerks glanced at each other nervously. One of them puffed up with courage. Your Highness, we're under orders from the Ministry of Justice to escort these prisoners. We can't just release them. What are your names? Dong Chao, Shui Ba. My eye twitched. Those names. In my old world, Dong Chao and Shui Ba were famous fictional villains, corrupt officers who escorted prisoners and murdered them along the way. What were the odds? You dare defy a prince's command. Dong Chao stood his ground, even gave a little bow. With respect, Your Highness, we have official orders from the ministry. We simply cannot comply. This guy figured I was the weak and gentle 6th prince from the rumors. Probably thought I'd never actually hurt a government employee. He had ministry paperwork. He was untouchable. Fine. Very good, I smiled. Dong Chao and Shui Ba have been caught releasing exile prisoners without authorization. A clear violation of imperial law. As a ruling prince, I cannot stand by and watch such criminal behavior. Someone seized these 2 fugitives. Both of them went white as paper. Wait, what? 10 seconds ago, they were officers of the law. Now they were fugitives? How did that? When did? This prince is insane. Bai materialized behind me, sword already drawn, blade gleaming. The 2 officers desperately turned to the station master with begging eyes. The station master was suddenly very interested in the ceiling. Eyes up, whistling internally. I see nothing. I hear nothing. I earn 30 taels a month. Not worth dying over. Dong Chao and Shui Ba's last hope evaporated. Their legs gave out, and they slid to the floor. Your Highness, mercy. Please. Hua Chang'an stood there completely dumbfounded, watching the 2 officers who'd been bullying him for days suddenly drop to their knees and gently remove his family's chains with shaking hands. I could see the confusion on his face. Those two had been tormenting his family the entire trip, and now they were acting like his personal servants. All it took was one prince with zero patience and a sword-happy subordinate. But then I walked over and took his dirty, filthy hand in mine. "Dr. Hua, go get cleaned up first. I'll need your help with something later." The man almost cried right there. I could practically read his thoughts. The prince I accidentally declared dead is holding my grimy hand and being nice to me. "Whatever you need, Your Highness. I'll do it right now. No rush." I smiled at him, then turned to Dong Chao and Shui Ba with a completely different expression. "You too." I kicked Dong Chao in the backside. "You're going to take care of Dr. Hua and his family. You will treat them like royalty." "Understood?" "Yes. Yes. Absolutely." Crystal clear. They were nodding so hard their necks might snap. After the doctor and his family went upstairs to change, I told my officials to go handle their own business. I wanted to take a walk through camp. Hu Chong, of course, refused to leave my side. I gave up trying to shoo him away. The human refrigerator goes where I go. Outside, my convict soldiers were enjoying the evening sun, looking happier than they probably had in years. But I had business to think about. How do I turn this rabble into an actual fighting force? Army strength comes down to 5 things: morale, formations, equipment, logistics, and individual soldier quality. Thanks to yet another ex-girlfriend, a history major this time, I knew a decent amount about ancient military systems. My dating history was really paying dividends in this new life. Formations and equipment would take time. Morale was already high, but the thing I could work on right now was individual soldier quality. These guys needed to get stronger. Fast. I walked into camp. Wang Sanchun and He Tsonglong were overseeing dinner preparations. They saluted when they saw me. I glanced at the cooking pots, and my mood instantly soured. Watery rice soup. Thin as dishwater. A few sad, rock-hard bread cakes on the side. And the cook was dropping a dirty vinegar rag into the pot for flavor. "This is what you're eating." I frowned. Wang Sanchun scratched his head. "Your Highness, the boys already had 3 days of meat and wine. That was more than generous. We've got a long road to Ningu. Gotta save supplies." "Nonsense." I grabbed the nearest soldier and pushed up his sleeve. His arm looked like a dried twig. You could count every bone. "Look at this. He's skin and bones." Wang Sanchun shrugged. "In the convict camp we got 1 meal a day, sometimes not even that. This is already an upgrade." "The convict camp is over," I snapped. "You are MY soldiers now. I will not have a single man in the Ningu army going hungry. Your lives belong to me, remember? You can't fight barbarians on an empty stomach. A dead soldier is useless to me." The soldiers around us went silent. Some had tears in their eyes. For years, all they'd known was pain and being treated like livestock. Nobody had ever cared whether they ate. People like us were allowed to eat 3 meals a day. Starting today, the Ningu army eats 3 meals a day. Every meal includes meat. Staple foods are unlimited as long as there's no waste. Wang Sanchun stared at me blankly. He'd served under plenty of officers. Not one had ever been like this. I gently rolled the skinny soldier's sleeve back down. "I've got a mission for you." The kid's eyes were red and wet. "Anything, Your Highness. I'll die trying. Simple. Eat more. By the time we reach Shanghai Pass, I want this arm 1 size thicker. Can you do that?" Tears streamed down his face. "Yes, good kid." I roughed his hair, then turned to Wang Sanchun. "Get some dried meat. Shred it up. Put some in every pot of porridge. You got it." He grinned and jogged off. By the time Dr. Hua came back downstairs in clean clothes, the soldiers were already scarfing down steaming meat porridge, faces glowing. Hua Chang'an smelled the food, and I caught him swallowing involuntarily. "Someone get this man a bowl too." "Doctor, Your Highness, what do you think of my soldiers' physical condition?" He studied them carefully. "Brave spirits, but their bodies are weak. Depleted energy, poor blood circulation. Years of starvation and hard labor have taken a heavy toll. I need you to design a recovery program for them. Nutrition plans, herbal supplements, whatever it takes." He stroked his beard, thinking. "I can try, but I'll need medicinal herbs. I brought a whole stockpile." "It's all yours. Even with herbs, I can't treat over 1,000 men alone. I need assistants who at least understand basic medicine." "That's tough." I sighed. "We'll try to recruit doctors as we pass through cities on the way. Ningu is so remote. I doubt any doctor would willingly go there. I smiled warmly. Don't worry. I have my methods. A few doctors? If they wouldn't come willingly, I'd just add them to the kidnapping list. I'd already bagged an entire department of government officials. What were a few physicians? Hua Chang'an saw my smile and felt a strange chill run down his spine. But he shook it off. The prince was clearly a righteous, compassionate man. What evil thoughts could he possibly have? In any other army, these convicts would be disposable cannon fodder. Only His Highness treated them as human beings. Hopefully these men would appreciate his kindness and repay it. Then the doctor thought about his own debt of gratitude. The prince had saved his entire family. How could he repay such kindness? His property was confiscated. He had nothing left except... Wait. Family. His daughter. 16 years old. Quite pretty, actually. What if he could arrange for her to be placed near the prince? Even if she couldn't be a concubine, being a personal maid would be a step up. Hua Chang'an stroked his beard, scheming quietly. Great. Even the doctor I just rescued was already plotting to throw his daughter at me. What was it with everyone in this world trying to set me up with women? Late at night, candle flickering, everyone asleep except me. I spread out a piece of yellowed lambskin and started drawing. The brush moved fast. Years of technical drafting skills from my old life made this easy. On the paper, a massive blade took shape. 10 feet long, curved edge, devastating design. What's that, Your Highness? Hu Chang was peering over my shoulder like a curious dog. This is a modeo, the greatest melee weapon in ancient Chinese military history. Is it strong? Stronger than anything this empire has ever seen. I'll have one forged just for you. He scratched his head. Swords are too light for me. Can I get something heavier? Trust me, this thing is not light. The modeo. 8 words from the history books summed it up perfectly. Men and horses alike, shattered. Advancing like a wall. The ultimate infantry weapon against cavalry. Ever since I arrived in this world, I'd been thinking about how to build an elite army. Mass infantry tactics were out. I barely had any soldiers. And against nomadic horsemen, numbers didn't win battles anyway. Too many troops would just collapse my supply lines. Quality over quantity. That was the only path. I sighed and set the modeo blueprint aside, adding it to the growing pile underneath. Each sheet had a different weapon design. Composite bows, cavalry lances, straight-backed swords, repeating crossbows. Drawing these was the easy part. My old ex-girlfriend, the history major, she was the reason I knew all this stuff. I'd spent weeks sketching historical weapons to impress her during our dates. Never thought that skill would become relevant for actual warfare. The hard part was building the industrial base to manufacture these weapons at scale. That was a mountain I'd have to climb one step at a time. I put the weapon blueprints away and pulled out fresh paper, dipped my brush, and wrote 3 characters at the top, on mathematics. Math is the foundation of all science. If I wanted to climb the technology tree, I had to start here. I didn't have a math major ex-girlfriend, but as an engineering graduate, I still had plenty of mathematical knowledge rattling around in my head. Better to write it all down before I forgot, then hand it to Qian Bin and his team. I was deep into writing when a knock came at the door. Little Qiuwen had fallen asleep at a side table. She lifted her head groggily, blinking at the door like a baby owl. Hu Chang opened it. Dr. Hua walked in with a smile. Doctor, come sit. I waved him over. Qiuwen, tea. He knelt at the lower end of the table and reported. Your Highness, I've inventoried all the medicinal herbs. There's enough to work with. I can add therapeutic ingredients to the soldiers' meals daily to help restore their energy and blood circulation. Excellent. However, the severely weakened soldiers need individual treatment, and I simply can't handle them all alone. Do your best for now. I'll recruit more doctors along the way. I will give everything I have. He paused, looked around the room. 1 bodyguard, 1 sleepy maid, and clearly decided this was his moment. Your Highness, there's one more thing. Go ahead. Your Highness has no woman attending to your personal needs. I have a daughter, just turned 16, knows some medicine, reasonably pretty. I would be honored if she could serve at your Highness's side. To repay your kindness for saving my family. Qiuwen's eyes went wide. The teacup in her hand nearly crashed to the floor. An old woman attending him? What am I, a potted plant? She looked down at her own chest, then kept looking down until she could see her own feet. Okay, maybe she wasn't exactly a woman yet, but she'd grow. Give it time. Fuming silently, She picked up the teapot and poured Dr. Hua's cup, filled it to the brim, with freshly boiled, scalding hot water. Hua Chang'an thanked her politely, picked up the cup, took a big sip, and immediately turned the color of a tomato, eyes watering, tongue on fire. I looked at him and frowned hard. Dr. Hua, what kind of person do you take me for? Someone who saves a man's life and then demands his daughter as payment? And no, that's not what He was panicking through a burned mouth. Don't bring this up again. You may leave. He stumbled out, mortified. I heard a slap through the closed door. He'd smacked himself in the face. The prince is a man of virtue, and I had such disgusting thoughts. I deserved to die. Back inside, Chowen was cheerfully massaging my shoulders, clearly delighted by the outcome. Your Highness, why didn't you accept? She might be pretty. That old man has no sincerity, I scoffed. An underage girl? What am I supposed to do with that? Now, his wife on the other hand. She's still quite attractive for her age. Chowen's hands froze on my shoulders. In the corner, Hu Chang scratched his head and silently made a mental note. The boss likes mature married women. Got it. If I see any beautiful wives on the road, I should kidnap them for him. No, Chang. That is not what I meant. I was joking, that I was going to have to monitor this boy very carefully. Meanwhile, back in the capital, news of my departure had spread everywhere. The reactions were predictable. Some officials sighed with pity. Some secretly celebrated. Most just shrugged. Nobody, and I mean nobody, believed the weakest, most pathetic prince could survive in the barbarian-infested Northeast. The general consensus was that I'd be dead before winter, murdered by my own convict soldiers, or eaten by nomad raiders. The court was far more interested in the crown prince. With every other prince gone from the capital, his position looked unshakable, but not everyone agreed. In the mansion of the left prime minister, an old fox named Du Fuchen sat across from his idiot son Du He, who was practically bouncing with excitement. The sixth prince is so stupid, going beyond the pass with just 1,000 convicts. He'll be killed by his own men before he even arrives. What a joke. And how does his death benefit you? The prime minister asked coldly. Dui's grin vanished. Well, with no princes left in the capital, the crown prince's succession is guaranteed, right? Fool. The old man looked at his son with the exhausted disappointment of a father who'd given up hope. No adult princes in the capital means the crown prince is safe? Is that what you think? Of course. The emperor personally chose him. Idiot. Du Fuchen slammed his hand down. The emperor is a supreme ruler. Do you think he wants a crown prince with no competition? A crown prince who feels safe? I know you've been spending time at the Eastern Palace. From today, you are banned from visiting the crown prince. But father, the old prime minister's eyes went cold and deep. The emperor didn't create multiple powerful border princes because he's generous. He gave each of them armies, territories, and full autonomy. Each one is a mini-kingdom. He's breeding competition, watching to see which son proves himself the strongest. In other words, every single prince, including the sixth prince in distant Ningu, has a shot at the throne. Everyone except the crown prince. Duhi's jaw dropped. The crown prince is already a discarded piece. He has zero chance of becoming emperor. While I was happily rolling toward the northeast with my band of convicts and kidnapped scientists, the capital was in chaos. Specifically, the Duke of Zheng's household was on fire. Figuratively. See, there's this girl named Chang Ningxue, the eldest daughter of the late General Chang Wudi, the legendary warrior who helped the emperor conquer the empire. After the general died young, his kids inherited his title and positions. Very powerful family, very connected, and their precious eldest daughter, the girl everyone knew was about to become the crown princess, had been missing for an entire day and night. The current Duke, Changpan, was having a meltdown. In this era, an unmarried noble girl disappearing overnight was a catastrophic scandal. Every servant and private soldier in the household was out searching. We've searched the entire capital, my lord. She's nowhere. Then search outside the city. The Duke was practically foaming. What use are any of you? His wife was crying nonstop, which was making things worse. Stop crying. Your tears won't find her. You're the one who spoiled her rotten, letting her play with swords and spears like some street fighter. Then go ask the emperor for help. Send the secret police. Are you insane? The emperor hasn't even issued the marriage decree yet. If word gets out she's missing overnight, people will say she's Compromised. The engagement is dead. Then the wife dropped a bomb. The maid said Ningxue left after hearing the sixth prince disrespected the crown prince. Could it be related to him? The duke froze. His daughter was obsessed with the crown prince. Worshipped him. If she heard someone insulted her beloved, would she actually try to? If that girl has gone to assassinate a prince of the empire, he whispered, face white as chalk. Our entire family is finished. 9 generations. Exterminated. Emperors could kill princes. Princes could scheme against brothers. But a subject murdering a prince? That was the kind of crime that got your entire family tree chopped down. Please let her not be that stupid, he muttered, sitting on the steps like a broken man. Spoiler, she was exactly that stupid. 100 miles from the capital, in Yi City, a girl stood on a rooftop staring into the darkness. Where is that Li Che? Why isn't he here yet, my lady? The city gates are closed. He won't arrive tonight. What a waste of a prince. Can't even travel 100 miles in one day. Chang Ningxue scoffed. And this weakling dared disrespect the crown prince. She was young but stunning. Bright eyes, perfect skin, elegant figure. And thanks to the duke's household feeding her very well, she had a physique that was, shall we say, significantly ahead of schedule for her age. Her bodyguard, a woman in black, tried one more time. My lady, perhaps we should go home. Scared? Our lives belong to you. But assassinating a prince is a capital crime. If we're discovered, I'll wear a mask. Who's going to know? She grinned confidently. That sixth prince has no martial skills. You girls just hold off the guards, and I'll finish him with one sword strike. The bodyguard sighed internally. Her mistress had a good heart. She treated her servants wonderfully, but her brain was absolutely empty. She genuinely thought a handful of girls with basic sword training could assassinate a prince surrounded by over 1,000 soldiers. Maybe, the bodyguard hoped, the sixth prince's security would be so tight that her lady would see it's impossible and give up. Yeah, good luck with that theory. The next morning, I had the convoy moving again after breakfast. Teacher Qianbin rode alongside me. Your Highness, Yi City is a major fortress guarding the capital's approach. We should arrive today. Perhaps we could stop there to rest and resupply. Resupply, yes. My eyes glinted. But I also want to pick up some people. People? We have enough laborers, don't we? Not laborers. Skilled craftsmen. Blacksmiths, carpenters, masons, and doctors. Last night I'd been thinking, if I was going to kidnap doctors anyway, why not go big? Grab every useful tradesman I could find. Unite all forces that can be united, as a great leader once said. Your Highness, these people won't want to leave their homes for the frontier. Qianbin raised the same concern as the doctor. Don't worry, teacher. I smiled my warmest, most innocent smile. Have you already forgotten how you were recruited? His mouth twitched. The memory of a burlap sack being yanked over his head was clearly still fresh. Your Highness, if you keep inviting people this way, there will be consequences. Why not try the slave markets instead? The brokers there always have people for sale. Escaped serfs, slaves, prisoners. Some might have useful skills. My eyes lit up. Of course. This was ancient times. There were professional human traffickers, tooth merchants, who dealt in buying and selling people. They'd have blacksmiths, doctors, craftsmen, all sorts of talent in their inventory. And the best part? These tooth merchants were scum. Human traffickers. Robbing them carried zero moral weight. It was practically community service. Teacher, that is a brilliant suggestion. I'll visit the slave markets personally. Qianbin let out a relieved breath. Good. The prince listened to reason. No more kidnapping innocent officials in broad daylight. What he didn't realize was that I hadn't abandoned my kidnapping strategy at all. I was just upgrading to a bigger target. We reached Yi City by afternoon. I had the main force set up camp outside the walls. Marching 1,300 scary-looking ex-convicts through a city gate would cause a panic, and took 50 of my best guys inside, disguised as civilians. These 50 were the same crew who'd pulled off the great official kidnapping back in the capital. Professionals. I officially made them my personal guard unit. I swapped my fancy prince robes for a simple scholar's outfit. Blend in. Look harmless. The guards scattered into the crowd around me. Invisible, but close. First order of business. Find the slave market. I was walking through town when I spotted a tea house with a pretty girl sitting by the window. Figured I'd ask for directions. Excuse me, miss. Could you point me toward the slave market? I need to buy some servants. Her face went from pleasant to disgusted in about half a second. I don't know and I don't care. Ask someone else, huh? Touchy subject apparently. Some kind of abolitionist? In this era? Interesting. I smiled politely. Sorry to bother you, and grabbed Xiaobai's arm before he could do something aggressive. We left. Behind me, Hu Chang studied the girl carefully, confirmed she was not a married woman, and quietly put his kidnapping sack back in his belt. Good boy, Ah Chang. Terrible instincts, but good boy. What I didn't know was that this girl, Chang Ningxue, the Duke's missing daughter, the Crown Prince's future bride, the one who'd come to assassinate me, watched me walk away and thought, that guy looks suspicious. I'm following him. She told her bodyguards to stay put and watch for Li Che at the city gates while she tailed me through the streets. I found a local scholar who directed me to the slave market. And honestly, I was not prepared for what I saw. The empire officially banned human trafficking. There were laws. But apparently those laws had the enforcement power of a wet napkin, because this slave market was operating right in the middle of the public marketplace. No hiding. No shame. Just open-air human sales next to the vegetable stalls. Sir, looking to buy some help, the market manager spotted me and practically teleported to my side. We've got concubines, singing boys, dancing girls, cooks, seamstresses, housemaids, whatever you need. Oh, you have everything. Biggest market in Yi City. Just tell me what you want, and I guarantee satisfaction. He sized me up. Expensive silk clothes. Jade pendant. Beautiful young maid following me. Mountain-sized bodyguard. His merchant brain calculated. Big spender. I ignored his groveling and walked inside. The smell hit first. Rot. Sweat. Human waste. I almost gagged. Rows of wooden cages. People crammed inside. Men, women, children, elderly. Naked, starving, hollow-eyed, standing in their own filth, which had dried into dark crusts on the cage floors. And right on the other side of the wall, livestock pens, cows and sheep. Their enclosures were cleaner than the human cages. Animals had more dignity than people here. Don't mind these ones, sir. The manager waved dismissively. Low-grade stock. Let me show you the premium selection. Stock? I repeated, still smiling. You call people stock? Of course. These ones aren't even worth as much as cattle. They'll end up in brothels or as household slaves. Sometimes a couple who can't have kids will buy one to raise. Costs about the same as a goat. He said it like he was discussing the weather. Completely normal business to him. Behind me, Qian Bin and Old Yang looked horrified. Qiubai was stone-faced. Hu Chang was aggressively ripping into his bread. Little Qiuwen was pressing herself against my leg, eyes wide with terror. Slave markets and cattle pens, side by side, I murmured, stroking Qiuwen's hair. The manager actually gave me a thumbs up. Beautiful poetry, sir. That's exactly right. I looked at him for a long moment, then smiled warmly. Lead the way. Show me the premium selection. Right this way, sir. He led me deeper inside, past the cages, into a wider area with individual stalls separated by fences. Each stall held one person. The first thing I saw was a dancer in nothing but a chest wrap, desperately moving her body to look appealing. In other stalls, women stripped bare, men flexing every muscle. All of them performing on command, trying to be chosen, because being chosen meant being bought, and being bought meant maybe surviving another year. Slavers patrolled with whips, watching their merchandise with dead eyes. My gaze moved from stall to stall until it stopped. A little girl, 7, maybe 8 years old, naked back covered in scars, standing perfectly still. Her eyes were empty. No fear, no hope, no anything. Just nothing. Those vacant eyes met mine. Something clenched inside my chest. Hard. Made your choice, sir? The manager's voice chirped behind me. I took a deep breath. Steadied myself. Yes, I've decided. Which one catches your eye? Too many to pick individually. Go get your boss. The owner of this entire operation. I want to negotiate directly. He hesitated. That's not really possible. Our master is very important. He doesn't come to places like this. Tell him I want to buy everything. Every single person in this market. And I'd like to give him a special gift on top of the payment. Think he'll come for that? The manager's eyes nearly popped out of his skull. Everything? You're serious? Completely. But the gift isn't with me right now. I'll need to borrow something from you first. I turned around and smiled at him. A warm, friendly smile. Except my eyes weren't smiling at all. He felt it. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. His merchant instincts screamed danger. Borrow what exactly? Just your head. I promise I'll take good care of it. The words barely left my mouth before Chiu Bai's sword was already moving. Shink. One flash of steel. The manager's eyes went wide. He felt something cold across his neck, and then his perspective started tilting. The last thing he saw was my face slowly sliding upward as his head separated from his body. Well, mostly separated. Chiu Bai didn't quite have enough strength to finish the job cleanly. The head was dangling at a horrible angle, still attached by a flap. Hu Chang calmly tucked his half-eaten bread into his shirt, stepped forward, grabbed the manager by the hair, and pulled. Crack. The sound of bone separating from bone. Not great for the appetite. Hu Chang walked over holding the head like a lantern, grinning his simple grin. Your Highness, here's the head you wanted. I slapped my hand over Chiowen's eyes and stared at Hu Chang. This kid. So obedient. So literal. When I said, borrow your head, he went and fetched it like I'd asked for a cup of tea. Now here's the part one won't sugarcoat. I was terrified. This was the first time I'd seen a killing up close. Really close. Close enough to see every detail of that dead face, still frozen in confusion. The blood smell was so thick it crawled into my nose and sat there. My stomach was doing backflips. But I couldn't show it. Not here. Not now. I forced myself to grab the head by the hair and toss it to one of the slavers standing nearby. The slaver caught it on reflex, looked down, realized what he was holding, and collapsed to the ground shaking. Deliver this gift to your boss. I kept my voice steady. Tell him I'm waiting here for his reply. The slaver just sat there, frozen, brain completely offline. I frowned slightly. Chiu Bai read my mind, stepped forward, and drove his sword through the man's throat. Quick. Clean. Done. He picked up the head from the dead slaver's arms, shook the blood off his blade, and turned to the remaining slavers with his most unsettling smile. Anyone else feeling paralyzed? Or can someone actually deliver a message? One slaver, braver or maybe just smarter than the rest, grabbed the head and sprinted out the door like his life depended on it. Because it did. Good. At least one of them has survival instincts. Chiu Bai looked at me. What about the rest of these guys? I looked at the remaining slavers. Pale faces. Trembling hands. Eyes begging for mercy. These people sold children, stripped human beings naked and caged them next to cattle. Beat a little girl until she learned to dance seductively just to avoid being hit. Kill them. Yes, sir. Chiu Bai licked his lips and raised his sword. More blood. More bodies. I didn't watch this time. I walked straight to the little girl's cage. Pulled at the gate. Wouldn't budge. Ah Chong. Open it. He grabbed the gate with one hand and ripped it apart like cardboard. With splinters everywhere. I reached in and lifted the girl out. Old Yang immediately pulled off his outer robe and handed it to me. I wrapped her tiny body carefully. Do you have a name? I asked softly. She looked at me with those empty eyes. Said nothing. Was she mute? Had those animals cut out her tongue? I frowned slightly, just a tiny crease of my eyebrows, nothing more, and the girl flinched. She wriggled out of my arms, landed on her bare feet, and immediately started dancing. A seductive dance. Performed by a 7-year-old. Mechanical. Practiced. Her face wore a smile that had nothing behind it. My throat went tight. Why are you doing this to yourself? To survive, a foreign woman in the next cage spoke up. Her smile was broken. When those monsters frown, we get beaten. This little one learned that if she dances well enough, the beatings stop. You frowned just now. That's why she started. It hit me like lightning. She wasn't dancing for joy or for art. She was dancing because my facial expression told her pain was coming. A child so deeply conditioned by abuse that a stranger's furrowed brow triggered an automatic survival response. The little girl kept smiling that hollow, mechanical smile while she danced. And that smile was the most frightening thing I'd seen in either of my lifetimes. Behind me, Qianbin's hands were shaking. This isn't human. Heaven should strike these beasts down. I turned and looked at all the cages. Rows and rows of people. Numb. Hopeless. Dead inside while still breathing. Ah Chong. I'm here, Your Highness. Tear down every cage. Okay. He went from cage to cage, ripping off doors like they were made of paper. Just grabbing and pulling, wood splintering, iron bending. Like a one-man demolition crew powered by bread. Some slaves crawled out weeping, pressing their foreheads to the ground in front of me. Free. After God knows how long. Others didn't move. The cage doors hung open and they just stayed curled up inside, staring at nothing. I crouched beside one of them, a big, muscular man. The door's open. Why don't you leave? He looked at me with dead eyes. Run where? They'll just catch me again. I nodded and stood up. Nothing more to say to him. His cage was destroyed, but the cage in his mind was still locked. Even that little girl had more fight in her than this grown man. People without the will to survive were beyond my help, and my army had no room for them. Chobai, gather everyone who's willing to come with us. Yes, Your Highness. I looked at the little girl again. Chowen was holding her now. The child weighed almost nothing, so light that even tiny Chowen could carry her easily. Any children with nowhere to go? Bring them too. I sighed. My heart still wasn't hard enough. But then again, kids were an investment. Small and useless now, sure, but moldable. Train them right, and they'd become the most loyal, most capable people in my kingdom someday. That's what I told myself, anyway. Suddenly, footsteps outside. Fast ones. Wang Sanshun ducked through the doorway. Your Highness, people heading this way. The main act is here, I said, grinning wide. Old Yang grabbed my sleeve. Your Highness, these people look dangerous. Maybe we should retreat. Retreat? I cut him off. I've been waiting for this guy. I wanted to see exactly who had the nerve to run a human trafficking operation this big, this openly, just 100 miles from the capital. Someone thought they were untouchable. Everyone else stay here and free every slave. Ah Chong, with me. I walked out the front door with Hu Chong at my back like a mountain with legs. The street had cleared. Dozens of thuggish bodyguards were pushing civilians aside, making way for an obscenely fancy carriage that rolled to a stop right in front of the slave market. People in the crowd were whispering. That's the Wang family carriage. What happened? Someone was running out of the market earlier carrying something bloody. Then the Wang family showed up. Someone actually attacked the Wang family? In this city, the carriage curtain opened and a wave of expensive perfume hit the air. A middle-aged man stepped out, or rather, he stepped onto a servant who was lying face down on the ground so his master's shoes wouldn't touch the dirty street. Classy. The surviving slaver was groveling at the man's feet. Master, he's inside. The Wang family head, Wang Bingi, looked toward the market entrance and his eyes met mine. I could see him calculating. Young, handsome, expensive clothes, confident walk. Not someone he recognized from any noble family in the region. Who are you? He asked. I strolled out the door, slow and steady. Did you get my gift? His eyebrow twitched. Rude stranger. But my bearing was too commanding to dismiss, so he swallowed his anger. A mere servant. If he offended you, he deserved to die. Smooth recovery. I'm Wang Bingi, head of the Wang family of Yi City. You're clearly a man of distinction. Perhaps we could discuss this over tea at my estate? If there's been a misunderstanding, we can resolve it like civilized men. Polished. Diplomatic. The kind of guy who could smile while ordering someone's family sold into slavery. I was not in a diplomatic mood. No misunderstanding. But I do have a question. Please. Imperial law explicitly forbids human trafficking. Why is the Wang family running the biggest slave market in the city, hidden in the crowd? Chong Ningxua, the assassin girl who'd been tailing me, nearly choked. In the world of noble families, everyone knew dirty business existed. But you never called it out publicly. That was the unspoken rule. She'd assumed I was just some rich playboy buying concubines. Now she was reassessing hard. A government inspector? But even inspectors wouldn't dare confront the Wang family this aggressively. They were one of the 8 great noble houses. The local magistrate bowed to them. Wang Bingi's pleasant expression cracked. Are you determined to make an enemy of my family? What if I am? Over a mere legal technicality. I don't care about your laws. I walk closer, step by step. But I have a debt to settle. What debt? We've never met. The image of that little girl flashed through my mind. Empty eyes. Scarred back. Dancing to avoid being beaten. 7 years old. My hand found my sword. This is a debt of class. The blade came out. Silver light reflected off Wang Bingi's stunned face. Before he could react, his bodyguards surged forward, swords drawn, aiming to cut me down. An iron arm shot out from behind me. One swing from Hu Chong sent 3 guards flying backward, coughing blood. Hu Chong planted himself in front of me like a wall of flesh and killing intent. Wang Bingi's world was spinning. Who was this person? Why was he attacking? What was class debt? Nothing made sense. I ran my sword through a guard's chest and smiled at Wang Bingi over the man's shoulder. You think you're noble? You think people are products? You think the Wang family stands above everyone else, And common people are insects you can crush whenever you feel like it. More guards rushed in. I ignored them completely. My eyes never left Wang Bingi, who was cowering behind his wall of muscle. If you're so noble, why are you hiding behind other men? He had nothing to say to that. Wang Sanchuan, go. From every direction, rooftops, alleys, the crowd itself, 50 black shadows erupted into motion. My convict guard, the kidnapping squad, now repurposed as a hit squad. They were skinny, scarred, and absolutely feral. They fought like men who'd already died once and weren't afraid to do it again. One Wang guard swung his sword at a convict soldier. The convict didn't dodge, didn't block, just grinned and body slammed the guard to the ground, then drove a blade through him before the man could even scream. The convict howled like a wild animal and launched himself at the next target. Against this kind of suicidal, zero self-preservation fighting style, the Wang family's better-trained guards were falling apart. You can't fight someone who genuinely doesn't care if they live or die. And then there was Hu Chong. Every time he charged, it was like a bull plowing a field. 10, 15 guards sent tumbling through the air with each pass. He picked up a dead guard's body and started using it as a club. Get the magistrate. Get the city garrison. Wang Bingi finally abandoned all dignity and screamed for help. Bad move. The screaming attracted Hu Chong's attention. The big man bulldozed through the remaining guards, grabbed Wang Bingi from behind his human shield, like plucking a kitten from a basket, and slammed him into the dirt. Wang Bingi scrambled up, his beautiful robes covered in mud and blood. Before he could find his balance, my sword was already at his throat. Forget the magistrate. You could go to heaven and invite Buddha himself. Won't help. He looked up at me, shaking. Who are you? Why are you doing this to my family? I'm the head of the Wang family. If you cross us, do you understand what we'll? There it is again. The bloodline argument. I looked down at him like he was a stain on my shoe. Your Wang family blood is noble, so people are livestock? Is that your logic? Well then, my blood is nobler than yours. By your rules, that makes you my slave. His eyes went huge. My king. I stomped on his leg. The crack of bone breaking echoed off the buildings. Compared to me, you are the commoner, and commoners. I pressed the sword harder against his neck. Kneel. Wang Bingi's leg shattered under my foot, and he collapsed, screaming like a dying pig. That scream traveled. It went through walls, through doors, all the way back into the slave market where the freed slaves were standing around in a daze. Some of them started walking toward the entrance, almost involuntarily, like something deep inside them needed to see. Old Yang held Chiu Bai back from stopping them. Let them look. If it wakes something up inside them, they'll be useful to His Highness later. I felt the eyes on my back. Turned around. Dozens of filthy, hollow faces staring at the mighty Wang family head writhing on the ground at my feet. And in those empty eyes, just for a second, a flicker of something. Hatred. Life. Take a good look, I called out to them. This so-called noble lord, his blood is red. Same as yours. I stomped on his other leg. Crack. More screaming. More blood pooling on the cobblestones. Red blood. Just like theirs. I could see it registering on their faces. This man who'd caged them like animals, who'd had them beaten and sold and stripped of every dignity. He bled exactly the same way they did. So why? Why did he get to be the master and they the merchandise? The civilians watching from the edges of the street were absolutely terrified. This was the Wang family, one of the 8 great noble houses. Dynasties rose and fell, but families like the Wangs survived everything. Nobody, not bandits, not rebels, not even regime changes, had ever treated a Wang family head like this. What I was doing wasn't just violence. It was an attack on the entire social order. How dare you? Wang Bingi's voice was barely a whisper. I leaned down close. What was that? Even the emperor doesn't treat noble families like this. His face twisted with pain and venom. And you're just a useless prince. How dare you? Oh, you know who I am. The only prince left in the capital besides the crown prince. 6th prince. I don't understand. What do you gain from this? They're just slaves. Their lives have nothing to do with you. His voice was fading, but the hatred was white-hot. I smiled at him. Good, you know the 6th prince. Now let me introduce you to someone else. Me, Li Che. He looked into my eyes, and I watched the color drain from his face. Whatever he'd heard about the weak, gentle 6th prince, he was realizing every word of it was wrong. This wasn't a soft boy playing hero. This was a man who'd just slaughtered his entire guard for people he'd never met. For slaves. For people society said were worth less than livestock. That's not compassion. That's insanity. And insanity is far more terrifying than cruelty. He looked around desperately. Every single one of his guards was dead. My convict soldiers were casually cleaning their weapons and stacking bodies. Ah Chong, hold him up. Let everyone see. Hu Chong grabbed Wang Bingyi by the neck with one hand and lifted him into the air like a rag doll. The mighty Wang family patriarch, master of an empire of human suffering, dangling by his throat, legs shattered, robes soaked in blood and mud. I turned to face the crowd. The Wang family head just told me that buying and selling commoners like you is a trivial matter, not even worth mentioning. The people stared at me blankly. I could see it, centuries of conditioning. They'd been taught since birth that nobles were above them, that this was just how the world worked. Even watching their oppressor hang helpless in the air, they couldn't feel anger, only fear. Well, I'm a reasonable man. Let's play by the Wang family's own rules. I pointed my scabbard at the dangling, whimpering Wang Bingyi. One adult male, head of the Wang family, literate, educated, skilled in poetry, music, chess, and painting. Slightly damaged, both legs broken, but still functional. Anyone want to buy him? He'd make a decent servant. A passable tutor, perhaps. The street went so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. People stared at me, stared at Wang Bingyi. Some started quietly backing away, terrified of being associated with whatever was happening here. The Wang family head, being auctioned like the very slaves he'd sold. Aag! Wang Bingyi let out a howl that barely sounded human. Li Che, how dare you? How dare you humiliate me like this? Hidden in the crowd, Chang Mingxue was frozen solid. Li Che? That was Li Che, the sixth prince? The cowardly, worthless, contemptible sixth prince she'd come to assassinate? She stared at my face. That confident smile. Those sharp eyes. The casual way I'd broken a man's legs and turned him into a public spectacle. Nothing about this matched the person she'd imagined. Then, hoofbeats. Fast ones. Dozens of armored cavalry burst around the corner, scattering civilians. The lead rider wore the robes of a sixth-rank official, the county magistrate himself, arriving at full gallop. His eyes found Wang Bingyi hanging in the air and nearly fell out of his head. Wang Bingyi saw his rescue and screamed with everything he had left. Qin Sheng. Kill them all. Every last one. The magistrate snapped out of it and bellowed. Release the Wang family head immediately. His cavalry drew their sabers. Killing intent filled the street. Magistrate Qin, you got here fast, I said casually. Very impressive response time. Criminal. You dare commit violence in broad daylight. Release Wang Bingyi now. Actually, you arrived at the perfect moment. I smiled and patted Wang Bingyi's dangling thigh like I was inspecting a horse at auction. Premium-grade slave right here. Interested in buying? Since you're clearly a dedicated, honest public servant, I'll give you a special discount, 1 copper coin. What do you say?